low-carbon transport solutions.
He also emphasized the need to strengthen the capacity of UN Habitat to assist member countries in developing the agenda for sustainable urban growth.
Let us apply ourselves to these imperatives and take a stand for humanity by way of embracing an effective, sustainable, inclusive, and just vision for the UN Habitat. I believe it is necessary to reiterate here the urgent need and immense importance of strengthening UN Habitat and enhancing its capacity to support member states in advancing the agenda of sustainable urbanization and human settlement.
And governors can now have a sigh of relief after Treasury announced it will be disbursing April funds this week. Addressing the media, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said that the arrears of the month of May will be released within next week. The DP was speaking after chairing the 20th Intergovernmental Budget Economic Council meeting.
On the status of cash disbursement, the amount disbursed so far is 305 billion, and we still have an outstanding 94 billion that is owed to the county for the months of April, May, and June. And we have agreed that owing to the difficult situation the country is having in terms of availability of exchequers, we have explained to the governors the strain that the National Treasury is undergoing, and they have understood. And after lengthy negotiations, we have agreed that the National Treasury will disburse by the end of this week monies owed to the counties for the month of April. We have further agreed that by 19th of June, the money owed to the counties for the month of May will be disbursed. The National Treasury has given a commitment with no guarantees that we shall do whatever is possible to try to raise the money for June before the end of the financial year. But if that is not possible, the counties have been requested to bear with us.
And Azimio leader Raila Odinga has asked his MPs to oppose the proposed Finance Bill 2023, which will be read for the second time on Thursday.
Sisi kama Azimio tutatoa msimamo wetu kamili siku ya Alhamisi. Siku ya Alhamisi tutatoa taarifa yetu kamili. Tutaeleza Wakenya kinagaubaga msimamo wetu kwa nini sisi tunapinga hiyo mswada. Ile hatua ambayo tunataka Wakenya wachukue hiyo mswada ikiletwa kule kwa vitisho wakishurutisha bunge kupitisha hiyo mswada. Lakini wabunge wetu wote tayari wameambiwa wapinge vikali hiyo mswada. Kama wewe ni mwanaazimio, pinga kabisa. Na wale wabunge ambao wataunga mkono hiyo mswada, nataka wale wapigaji kura wao waweke wao kwenye darubini ili wajue kwamba wao ni wasaliti wa wananchi.
Ednah Kenya leader Martha Karua on her part has said that most of the taxes proposed in the bill are aimed at the residents of Mount Kenya.
Many of the tax measures contained in the finance bill currently before Parliament are unreasonable and clearly directed not only at the nation but particularly at Mount Kenya businesses. The proposed turnover tax is basically a tax on assets whose primary objective is to impoverish the mamambogas, bodabodas, and other vulnerable Kenyans struggling to make a living in these difficult economic circumstances. The majority of these businesses, small businesses, are owned largely by men and women of the mountain region.
And Interior CS Kithure Kindiki has reiterated the government's commitment to dealing with rogue preachers, saying they will face the law. Speaking when he commissioned police divisional headquarters in Wundanyi, Taveta County, Kindiki appealed to Kenyans to submit their views to the task force tasked with looking into laws governing religious institutions.
All people of this country should make a point of contributing their views to the task force that has been established to recommend the legal, policy, administrative and procedural measures that we need to adopt to make sure that never again in our country we have the kind of injury that we got through Mr. Mackenzie.
I'm Dennis Oseta. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
You tuned into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyang.
Amen. Amen.
So now it's over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
What the big boys have also done.
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's betting, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Welcome to Tuesday. A little bit of traffic is starting to build up in different parts of the city. We're seeing it on Jogo Road, coming out towards Landis, but it's manageable for now. It looks good as you're getting towards the Kamkunji roundabout. A little bit also starting to build on the Thika Superhighway. Kiambu Road looks pretty good. Now, guys, now is the time to get onto Kiambu Road. You'll be out into the city in no time, like flash. That guy in the red suit, like flash. You'll be out into the CBD. No drama, no delay. All right, let's look at it coming out of Wacky Way. Nothing happening there. You get in from Westlands into the CBD. No issue whatsoever. All right, coming off of the Southern Bypass, you're looking good as you're getting towards Langata Road. Langata Road also free and clear all the way into the city. Somebody's doing aerobics here. Hopefully the traffic will not do aerobics today for us this Tuesday. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter and keep things moving today.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the
Hey. Yes, City. I don't know, man. You know, sometimes it's good to change advisors.
Good to change advisors. Where?
But it's all right.
Yeah? Why?
I'm looking at a picture here, and the person who acted as the advisor before this picture was taken, how can that person must be given other lighter duties?
Oh yeah.
Yes, because it's not good.
Oh yeah.
And I'll tell you why. You'll see, and you'll see my point of view.
Okay. Let's hope so.
You will see.
Okay.
Voila.
Otherwise, how are you?
Otherwise, I'm very well. This cold has abated somewhat. It's not as cold outside. In here, it is absolutely bloody freezing. Okay, but out there, the cold has somehow become a little more sensible. Yes.
It's thinking straight.
It's thinking straight. It's not misbehaving. It's not saying rude things. Yes.
Okay.
I'm quite happy.
Yeah. Sister Ndu.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you, Eric?
I'm very well.
Super duper.
Yes.
Super duper.
I'm actually very well.
Who said that? Who says that regularly? Adida.
That to you.
Yes, it's okay to hapo.
So I'm not my mouth today.
Going nowhere.
Not opening it. I'm not opening it. No.
Today is Sita.
Imagine it is.
Sita.
It's the 6th of June.
Okay, I know Saba, but surely Sita sounds a bit like now you're pushing it. Now come on.
Tano.
Yes.
Saba.
Yes.
Aye, surely.
Sita.
And because of that, today's Sita is somewhat significant because there are some people who are organizing a march in town against the finance bill. I don't know what they want, but they're just against the finance bill. Okay.
And it's not an Azimio rally.
Si mandamano.
It's what?
Si Raila.
It's a rally.
This is just a march.
Okay. March, not match. Okay, not football.
Community organizer of Kongamano la Mapinduzi, Mutemi Wakema, is one of those who will be marching across the streets of Nairobi today. He'll be joining us at 7 a.m. to tell us, okay, what is this all about? Where are you going? What do you want? Yes. March against the 2023 finance bill. That's 7 a.m. At 8 a.m., we have a new board at the Kemsa, right? And even a new boss, CEO, right? Oh, and I met him, by the way, on Friday. He said hi to you guys.
CEO.
Dr. Andrew Mulua.
Oh, thank you very much. And we even have a new chairman.
And we have a new chairman as well. The chairman will be joining us at 8 a.m., Irongo Nyakera. Yesterday, they said some things. They said the board has met and the board has decided everybody who's been pre-qualified as a supplier, you have been disqualified. All of you.
Go home.
All of you. Go home. We're dealing with this thing afresh. He'll come at 8 a.m. to tell us, so now.
Alafu?
So now, what does that mean? He'll come at 8 a.m. Irongo Nyakera, the new chairperson of Kemsa board, comes at 8. At 9, we will be joined by the Deputy Minority Leader in the National Assembly, the MP for Kathiani constituency, the Honorable Robert Mbowe, Azimio strategy on the finance bill. Yesterday, Raila said he has told his people in Parliament how to vote. And his was not a threat. It was just an instruction.
Just do it. Like Nike.
Yeah.
Just not even...
Yeah, his was different from the other one. It's just an instruction. Yeah. So Robert Mbowe comes and will be speaking to us at 9 a.m. about the finance bill and what Azimio leadership wants. So here imejana mnayo. It is 14 minutes after 6. Are we live streaming the show? We are on YouTube and Facebook. If you are online, let us know where you are tuned in from. Let's take a look at the weather forecast. We'll acknowledge your presence.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You think you can guess the year?
2007. That's when the theme song, that's when it premiered for the James Bond movies.
You're half correct. But in terms of guessing the year?
Okay, if not 2007, then 1963.
Oh, now you're just throwing things, eh? You're throwing the sufria and everything outside.
The Spice Drive. Big hair and the biggest hits from the best decade.
Getting jiggy with it. Tune in to the Spice Drive with me, Edward Quatch, 3 to 7 in the p.m.
The Spice Drive, only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Damn.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, highs of 23 and lows of 13. And at 14, it's clear in Nakuru, highs of 25 today. 22 will be the high and mostly cloudy in Nyeri at 15 currently, and it's clear at 13 in Eldoret, highs of 25. 23 and mostly clear in Mombasa, highs of 29, and it'll be going to highs of 29 as well in Malindi, where it's clear at 25. 20 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 28. We'll see highs of 28 as well in a cloudy Kakamega, currently at 15. At 19, Kampala is mostly cloudy, highs of 27, and Dar es Salaam is cloudy at 24, highs of 30. Tuesday we'll see highs of 20 in Johannesburg, where it's cloudy at 9 degrees this morning, coming down to lows of just that. At 27, Lagos is cloudy, highs of 30 and lows of 26, and it's mostly clear in Kinshasa at 23, highs of 31. 31 and sunny in Beijing going into Tuesday afternoon, highs of 35 today into monsoon season and lows of 21. Mostly cloudy at 13 in Paris, highs of 27, and London is cloudy at 12, highs of 20. It's clear in New York Monday night at 18, highs of 24 and lows of 15.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, everybody. Davis is listening in from Minneapolis in Minnesota this morning, and it's your night. Brian Otieno out of the woods says, let us forget about the IMF. Okay. Good morning from Athi River. Olo is in this morning. Good morning, all. Deep State says he's here for Ednah and other short stories. Well, all right. Free says, good morning, TT Eric and fellow Kenyans. All right. The 2000. Good morning, gentlemen and lady. And there's a glass of something. Isn't it too early for that? Well, I guess it's 11 o'clock, 5 o'clock somewhere. Isn't it?
Oh, it's breakfast.
Oh, that's going to be breakfast? Oh, sour. Brian Otieno says the best breakfast show on the continent. All right, thank you so much. It will be the biggest mistake to pass this bill, says Oduno. Ruto will be testing waters. Tax should be compulsory, but not where to use it. Okay. Collins Wabuga is tuned in this morning from Nyeri, and listening in from Colorado, Oscar is tuned in as well. Julius Song says good morning to everybody. All right, who else is online this morning? Pato Mugo says, good morning, this Sita, I think you meant to say Sita Day. We'll be watching from a distance. All right. Dikush, good morning. You're saying that people are pitiful and they're sycophants and there are many things. Wow. Okay, so good morning, I guess. In other words. Patrick Karaoke says, good morning. Tuned in. Good work. Feel appreciated. Asante sana, brother. Opiga Kopige is tuning from Champala. Says good morning, everybody. Eldoret is where Colin Skiptai is tuned in from. Good morning, team. Kindly ask Ednah specifically, the frequency of spice in Kakamega.
Ednah jibu swali.
Swali, haraka, quickly. Eric, you make me miss Larry King. Allah. Okay. Paul Ntaia is tuned in from Narok East. Good morning to everybody in the studio. Good morning, sir. Happy Tuesday of the week. Good to see you. Have a wonderful one. And to you too. Davil Masharia is tuning from Nakuru, and Robertsburg is tuning from Mombasa. Shalo Mukhalama is tuned in this morning, and Maurice Warenga Nyongesa also joining us from Kabras this morning. Tuned in from Kwamtusi Mwenge.
Kabras.
Dicho.
That name always sounds very good. Kabras.
Okay. Well, everybody is here. Good morning. Let's go.
Everybody. City.
Yes, please.
We're still in Malawi.
Yes, second day in Malawi.
Okay.
The president of Malawi is Lazarus Chikwera.
Yeah.
It's Dr. Lazarus Chikwera.
Yes, Lazarus. That's his name.
He's a man of God.
He's a man of God. Yes. His vice president is called Saulos Chilima.
Saulos.
Yes, that is his name. Saulos Chilima. Or do you think we should call him something else?
It's called Saulos.
Well, we're at it. I mean, you can make a suggestion.
Chilima. Yes, I'm going to go to town on this particular one.
Here we go.
The House Speaker is called Catherine Gutani Hara. That is her name. Okay. The Chief Justice thought I would just mention this thing. Chief Justice Rizin Mzikamanda.
Is that male or female?
The Chief Justice is, are we okay? Are we all right there?
Rizi what?
Rizin.
It's actually Rizin, It's really Rizin, but since we're speaking the English language, it is Rizin. Okay? Now this one is not, it doesn't matter what you call it. This one you can pronounce as written Mzikamanda. It can't be anything else.
Let's say she's a woman.
If you wish.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now.
Who else?
For today it is okay.
Okay.
That is just nice. Bit by bit.
Sawa.
Just so that you tell you. But okay, since you asked the question, the main religious inclination in this country is Christianity. 82.3% of the population claim to be Christians. Okay?
Very good.
I'll give you the details of that Christianity thing tomorrow.
Okay.
You in sawa?
Sawa basi.
Okay. A deer tethered with a golden chain can escape to the forest to eat grass.
A deer tethered with a golden chain can escape to the forest to eat grass.
You think that because you've tethered with a golden chain, it's going to change? No.
That it will now be satisfied. It will be full because it's gold.
No. Or it's going to know that it's different because you've tethered it with a golden chain. Kuna kitu kama hiyo. You let go, kidogo namna it's back
to the forest.
Its natural setting.
That's a good one. Headlines.
MPs under siege. Parliament resumes today after a recess to a season that will test their nerves, is what the headline is saying in the Standard. The executive has bullishly asserted that MPs will do as they say, while Wananchi feel the MPs can rescue them from squalor by legislating against some government wishes. Will government whim prevail? C'est la question. Big GMO debate. Why groups want court orders. Farmers long wait for coffee cartels to die. And we saw that there was negotiation between the governors and the deputy president yesterday in Karen. A peek into budgets drawn by governors. And there's been some promise of 2 weeks. And, just in case things don't happen in 2 weeks, see mutuelewe tu.
Oh, yeah.
So, hatuna pesa, but we are trying. So, by the end of this week, tutakuwa tumetuma pesa. Lakini, and then by the 19th of June, tutakuwa tunatuma pesa ingine.
Machogu is saying the same thing about schools.
Wait, before I even get to Machogu. So now there was a rider after all of this. Then he now said, look, this is what we want to do. But just in case it doesn't happen, we're telling you now. Just understand that we tried everything and...
If it doesn't happen, it's not us.
It's not us. Just to do. So... it is supposed to be end of this week, which is in 3 days. And then by the 19th of June, another money for... So by the end of this week, they should have received money for March. Then by 19th, they would have received money for April. But in case these things don't happen, don't
just
say
know we tried. Okay.
All right. On the front page of the Daily Nation, Unga sugar prices to go up again. Again and again. Hard times gear for higher prices of maize, flour, sugar, bread, eggs, rice, cooking oil, and other food items this month. Farmers and traders have warned, citing high input and fuel costs, reduced local production, and high import costs. And this is before the finance bill is passed, further pushing prices out of reach for many Kenyans. Ruto was bullish yesterday. Yesterday was World Environment Day. He was at the United Nations Environment Program headquarters in Nairobi at Gigiri. And he said, you know what? All these meetings people are jumping about going to do, stop it. Because we've not seen any results. So just stop it.
This thing of you flying from God knows where, and you are adding to the problem.
Yeah,
all those planes flying here
And then you all come and just talk.
Then you go back and sit
28
down.
meetings of talk.
And then this year is the 28th one. Shouting.
Then guzzling, going, and then nah.
Stop it.
If we are not doing anything, let's just stop this nonsense.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
That's what he said. Ombaso case against finance bill certified as urgent. You know, usually when you go to court, they'll tell you, pick a number. Prends un numéro, as they say en français. And then, prends un numéro, take a number. But now...
À quel numéro?
Peut-être 7.
Okay.
And if it's very far...
Then it's set.
Ombaso, however, has been given a certificate of urgency. Okay? So his case has been certified as urgent.
So his number has been moved up.
Yeah, has been... Not that number, but okay. So let's look at the details of that. And on the back page of The Nation, what do we have? Declare your sources of funding. State tells NGOs. You people coming into this country, just behaving anyhow. That we don't know where your money is coming from, and you just want to come and splash it here and tell us that you're doing development work. No, tell us where the money is coming from. That's what they said. KBC poster debts hit 17.4 billion shillings. Okay, we'll look into those details as well. That's what I have.
Okay, let me tell you what's in the Business Daily. The Central Bank of Kenya has been working and asking people to give it views on what it calls the central bank digital currency. It's a digital currency from the central bank. The Kenyan version of the CBDC, whose introduction has been under debate for the last few years, is prompting the CBK to issue a discussion paper, and they did that last year. But the feedback points to more threats than opportunities. Respondents told the CBK that the digital currency could become a threat to Kenya's financial stability, especially if the regulator issues the currency directly to customers, making the regulator a direct competitor with the same entities that it oversees. So this is commercial banks. Commercial banks have had the issue of a central bank digital currency. They're like, hey, guy, now people are not going to come and deposit money with us. Hiya. So banks and other financial industry players have warned that the issuance of a central bank digital currency may spark the collapse of an unspecified number of banks as customers rush to convert their money from the current form of deposits. So that's what the banks are like, no, this one is going to take our cheese. Higher. The other headline, state drops bid to privatize sugar companies. The government has dropped plans to privatize state-owned sugar farms in the country amid sustained opposition to the proposal by leaders and sugarcane farmers from the Sugar Belt region. DP Rigathi Gachagua said Kenyans and sugarcane farmers were not keen on the privatization of any of the state-owned sugar farms, hinting that the government is now leaning towards a leasing model. This is a cash cow. This sugar thing, they will not privatize it. How else did money come out of the public coffers to go somewhere to do higher? Ticker headlines. KBC and Posta lined up for bailout in turnaround plan. Samia eyes 879 million shillings from land sale. And the BAT is cutting contracted farmers' pay to 5-year low. City.
Yes, please.
That one. Tell us now about the
I want you to look at
photo
this
and the advisor.
I want you to look at this picture. Okay.
That is a picture of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua.
And to his right is the chair of the Council of Governors and Kirinyaga Governor and Waiguru.
Look at the faces of these individuals.
Right.
The faces are speaking to you. What are the faces telling you?
They're all
They don't
frowning.
look very happy.
Especially at the back, the governor of Narok County.
Yes.
Where?
In fact, he's looking down.
Yes.
Not even looking at the camera.
Yes. Now, this is a picture of people who are clearly not happy. Okay? This amount of happiness spread equally among such people would arise from having eaten something that disagrees with you.
Yeah.
So you're trying to keep a straight face and your stomach is telling you a completely different story. All right? But you know, so long as the conversation about our finances remain as they are, I do not see any forward movement because the conversations usually have very little truth in it. The one conversation that the county governments avoid judiciously and religiously, as does the national government, is when you ask, this money that you guys have, what? Just tell us. It's this amount, okay? You've told us it is spent. Can we also see? Because apart from just paying people salaries, that one we get, but what else does this money do? So when I see this group of Waheshimiwa not looking happy, I get the impression that it has very little to do with service to the people of their respective counties that is at the heart of this particular consternation you see written all over their faces. All right. Top right-hand corner in teal green. Battle for devolution. Senators to governors do not cede any devolved roles. That is the story on page 8. Talking tough. Raila says they are considering street protests. Finance bill is a done deal. Ruto team declares. All right. Done deal. It is declared. Tough talk. It is also declared. All right. Senators push for revival of grain reserves. When we didn't have them, I thought we had grain reserves. What?
I thought so.
Man, this is a revelation. We don't have grain reserves. All right. This is story on page 7. MPs finance bill. MPs between a rock and hard place in voting. The suggestion to have a public voting on the finance bill puts Kenya Kwanza MPs between a rock and a hard place. Why only them?
Why?
It also puts us the mayor between a rock and a hard place. So, I don't know, but that's the story anyway. I have finished headline in the Star.
Well done, City.
Those are the things that are happening. However,
there's one more.
I have the
East African.
Thank you so very much.
It's been a while, man.
It's been a while. Yes. Headline: Ruto plays West Russia ping pong. Looking to save a tanking economy, a weakened shilling, and deliver fertilizer and food to his hustlers, the Kenyan leader has found dividend in seeming cautious neutrality on the festering Ukraine crisis. This is story on page 4 and 5.
Right.
Then, immediately below it is a delightful picture of President Yoweri Museveni in a lovely hat, and there's this yellow garment he's wearing. He's looking very funky. Political capital for Museveni in anti-gay law. Now a hero in the eyes of his supporters for standing up against foreign ideology. If there's anything against his 2026 bid, it is now defeated.
Kabisa.
Yani Kabisa gone. All right. Then immediately below it, Rwanda wants M23 at Congo peace talks. PM Girente says it's unfair to resettle the rebels without their say in the exercise. That's what he said.
Makes sense, actually.
Does it not?
So they should be included.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they are a force to reckon with.
They are the ones that are being fought with. How do you have a peace treaty without part of the
So the headline here in the East African, it's one interesting thing to another, to another, to
From
another.
one to another.
Yes.
Let's take that break. 27 to 7. Let's take a look at the traffic. Then we'll look at the headlines in detail.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
All right.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. Not too crazy. We're looking at traffic building up in different parts. So here and there, we saw nothing on the Thika Superhighway, and now we're seeing something. It's coming in from beyond the Allsops Junction. It's going to get into the city slow but sure. Let's look at Naivasha Road. It's starting to build up. Naivasha Road, also on the other side, then connecting with Gong Road, coming off of Kikuyu, connecting with Gong Road. Gong Road will take you down towards the city's mortuary roundabouts without too much of an issue right now. Then you're going to get into Lavington, you're going to get into Kileleshwa, then out through towards James Gishuru onto Waiaki Way. That looks like it's going to be busy at some point this morning. Who's this? This is Jogo Road. Jogo Road busy as you're getting into the city. A little bit of traffic as you get then towards Landis. And yeah, that's about the size of it for now. We'll get into traffic hour prop in about an hour or so. But let's keep it safe, guys. Let's know what's going on where you are. And then let's talk on Spice FM, KE, on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. tonight. 94
to 7.
Okay, so Senator Oke Omtata takes case to court. The High Court has certified as urgent a petition filed by Busia Senator Oke Omtata and 4 activists against the controversial Finance Bill 2023, setting stage for a battle that could derail President William Ruto's agenda. Justice Hedwig Ongudi did not issue instant orders suspending Parliament from debating the bill, but instead directed the petitioners to furnish the other parties with the court documents within 3 days. She also directed the defendants government and the National Assembly to file their responses within 7 days. The parties will appear before court on the 19th of June for further direction. Omtata, together with activists Eliud Karanja Matindi, Michael Kojo Otieno, Benson Odiwor Otieno, and Blair Angima Oigoro, wanted the court to bar Parliament from debating 13 sections of the bill pending hearing and determination of the case. Alternatively, they wanted a temporary order barring the Speaker of the National Assembly from transmitting to the President the approved Finance Bill 2023 if it contains the listed disputed sections, and they're quite a number: 28, 30, 33, 15, 34A, Part 3, 5, 7, and 8, 36, 52, 56, 59, 73, 74, 76, 78, and 79 of the bill. Those are the issues the sections that they've taken issue with. They say the bill is a threat to human dignity and socio-economic rights and violates the Constitution. So they said, look, if you're not going to throw out this thing in its entirety, then stop the Speaker, if it does go through, from transmitting the results to the President until these issues then are heard.
Okay.
Right? So let's see what happens.
Okay. That's a good one to see. So the President yesterday was at the opening of the UN Habitat Assembly, and he spoke and he said, okay, so listen, this year we are preparing now to go to Dubai for this thing that you're calling COP28.
Yeah.
He said, I hope we will have the determination to make COP28 the last COP we hold. I'm told there are plans for COP29. It should be cancelled. We need COP28 to create and seek a win-win outcome to avert the climate crisis once and for all, the President said during the opening ceremony of the second UN Habitat Assembly, dubbed UNHA2, which kicked off yesterday at the UN headquarters in Gigiri, Nairobi, and it's being attended by thousands of delegates from 128 countries. Last year at COP27, President Ruto spoke on behalf of the continent, and he called out the West for what he described as evasion and delaying tactics in dealing with regions like Africa, which bear the brunt of the effect of climate change, noting that by 2050, climate impact could cost African nations $50 billion annually. Now, his words, and these were not just yesterday, even previously he's been speaking, have been sending Kenyan negotiators attending the 2023 Bonn UN Climate Change Conference in Germany, as well as delegates attending the Habitat Assembly, confused. Because we're wondering, okay, so now when the President says scrap this COP thing, what exactly is he saying?
Well, where's the confusion?
The confusion is, what exactly does it mean? So are we
scrap it?
Does it mean that we are pulling out of talks, of global talks?
No, it just means that we're not going to travel halfway around the world to do it.
It hasn't been scrapped yet.
Yeah.
He's saying it should be scrapped.
Yesterday, a meeting was convened and chaired by Dr. Pacifica Ogola, who's Kenya's chief climate negotiator, and Mr. Ali Mohammed, who's the country's climate change envoy at the office of the president. Dr. Ogola explained what the president is doing is disrupting the norm to force people out of their comfort zones. We are not poor as Africa. Why should we go around with a begging bowl? We have to wait for Ali to come and offer us guidance on where we go from here. When Ali came, Ali explained, okay, yeah, what the president is doing is basically disrupting. He's saying, we've been haggling around and we are being treated as if we, African countries, are begging. What the president is saying is what we need is investment on climate. Not this whole issue of, we are going that. It's clear investment that is required here. If you are serious about climate change, then put your money where your mouth is.
Hook, line, and sinker, I agree with the president.
Completely.
Completely.
You know, this climate change conversation, you carbon credit, carbon debit, it's a false conversation because it is skewed towards benefiting the West. We are mentioned only when you now want to talk about, well, you know, in the developing countries, you know, they do not emit these very dangerous, what, blah, blah, and it's one sentence and then it's done. But the real issue of reducing the emissions that the West has been accused of, the idea of reducing emissions is to move manufacturing elsewhere. So when you do whatever it is you do with whatever it is you have to determine whether they're emitting whatever it is they're supposed to be emitting, you figure it's gone down. But they've taken it elsewhere. So, and they're the ones behind it. So it's, in reality, it isn't as though anything has changed.
No, it really hasn't. And you've had 28 world meetings where hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent for people to come and sit year
And
on
talk.
year and talk and then go back to their covens and do absolutely nothing.
Make some
So that's why
commitments
I
here
agree.
and there.
Yeah, you make commitments.
Move.
They're never done. That's why I agree with the president. What are you doing? You come, you meet, okay, like now, they met COP27 in Egypt, right? Last year in November. People have not done anything. People are arranging for Dubai 28.
Yeah.
What happened between November last year and today?
now.
Significantly as a result of that. But no, tickets, hotel rooms,
Talk,
DMs, talking. Then you come back.
Photos,
Eh,
and then
you
we
were at
move.
Sharm el Sheikh. Now we're going to Dubai. What are you doing?
Do you remember what that freedom fighter told us the other day on Madaraka Day? The lovely lady.
Wahukara.
Wahukara. Said, you know, this whole thing about Mageuzi and fighting for freedom, it was a sacrifice. But what has it become? NGOs, meetings, per diems, travel, people chit-chat, present papers, and then you wait for the next time when you can gather together to sit, meet, chit-chat. But the thing that I honestly don't understand, in all sincerity, no pun intended, no facetiousness, this thing, relationship of trees and carbon and absorption, are we saying we don't have enough trees to absorb all this carbon? I mean, that's the question that I keep asking.
Yes.
I don't think it is true.
We need to plant more because you chop
the planting trees. I understand.
Chop them down.
I
and
understand.
Not replace them.
But that we don't have enough trees. That I don't get.
CT
I honestly don't
actually
get.
just doesn't believe
We are burning more than we can absorb.
But CT doesn't believe that climate change is an issue right now. He believes it's a cycle and that we're going to get out of it in a few years. Just like the ice age came and went, then there was a dry age, and it's going to happen. It's a cycle.
You know that ice age that you're speaking of. There were something like around 3 people on the whole planet. Okay.
And giant animals.
So this greenhouse effect, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
There are things that are cyclical, they will recur. That we have climate change, it is true, yes, but we've had climate change before. Raging heat, raging floods. That we are decimating our foliage, forest cover, it is also true, and it's having an effect. That one I don't need to be even clever. I understand it.
But you have a problem with and I think I'm with you there. You have a problem with the hullabaloo that is being made.
Yes.
People, the hundreds of millions of dollars that are being spent every time. People talking, preaching here and there, and actually not following or practicing what they preach.
There's an
big issue
agenda
with
that
as
is
well.
ongoing here, which is not what we're hearing. That's what I'm actually trying to say.
It is very true.
Yeah. Yes.
I agree with it.
That's
Because
really what I'm saying.
The hobnobbing and the talking for me is really, and actually I am really, for the first time in a minute, I'm really in tune with what President William Ruto is saying.
Listen to what he said. Let me read to you what he said verbatim. I believe it's possible for us to run on clean energy and at the same time decarbonize. It's not a contradiction. 92% of our grid is clean energy. And this is why it's my belief that COP28 should be the last COP, because we have what it takes to make the right decisions and have adequate assets of green energy on our continent. There are people who believe that the only way we can industrialize is by exploiting fossil fuels. We can industrialize using green energy, and what we need is financing and technology. It took the world 6 months to come up with the World Bank and IMF. It's possible. We have the right mindset to sort out the climate crisis. We can do this in weeks. Stop this conversation of global north versus global south. This is not a global south problem. This is not a fossil fuel versus green energy problem. This is a problem that we can sort out together.
Thank you. Give the man a cigar, man.
Hmm?
Yeah, absolutely.
And while you're dead, give him a cognac.
Wacheni kutuharibia rais. Hakuna atumii hizo vitu.
Unajua?
Soda basi.
Patia maziwa.
Fanta Blackberry.
It's called black currants. He said flat. He said he actually said
Blackberry.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't do this, man.
Pick a story, City. As you do that, let me take you down memory lane. Eh?
Yes,
you know, we are now in the throes of the finance bill and Mwai Kibaki was our president a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Many years when City was a young man, Mwai Kibaki was a finance minister.
Yes.
In this country.
True.
Back in the days when it was fashionable to fundraise for communal projects through Harambees, the government saw an opportunity to raise tax revenue by taxing Harambee money. Mwai Kibaki. This did not go down well with some MPs who felt that the government was reaping where it never sowed by trying to benefit from funds raised to cover some of its own inadequacies. Wewe haujajenga shule. Sisi tumefanya harambee ya kujenga shule. Alafu unakuja unachukua tax. Hiyo pesa ya kujenga shule. Is something normal with you in your head? MP for Githunguri Arthur Kenyajui Magogo cornered Finance and Planning Minister Mwai Kibaki demanding action. Magogo wanted Kibaki to stop the taxation of all money donated to Harambee projects and all other funds collected for similar purposes across the country. He was disturbed that many philanthropists were giving their money for certain projects and they were getting disheartened because rarely were the targets met as the government was taking a cut from whatever sum was collected.
Sound familiar?
Kibaki, however, told Magogo why the taxation will not be scrapped. It is not discouraging. All of us make some contributions every weekend to self-help projects. This, in fact, is digging into our pockets than any taxpayer would be able to do. He explained that this is a healthy exercise and encouraged Kenyans to dig deeper so as to fund worthwhile projects, adding, I'm sure no taxpayer is going to get in as deep as the communal spirit of helping a self-help project will get. After realizing that Kibaki was unrelenting in taxing Harambee money, the MP for Iveti North, A.N. Mutunga, suggested that a mechanism be worked out to have a limit on the amount that could be taxed. Many people in this country contributing to charitable organizations like Red Cross and John's Ambulance Trust and others. Those contributions are as important as contributions to particular self-help projects, Kibaki said. He argued that exempting such contributions from tax was a major decision that he was not prepared to take at the time. Explaining it would be quite complex. Now, you're telling me, so if we should only tax people who are like contributing to Red Cross, but people who are doing Harambee in a church or to build a local school, those ones we should not tax them. It's just complicating. You tax anybody who's contributing. Ni Harambee, toa tax.
Yikes.
Can you imagine if this thing was introduced in this finance bill?
War.
Ati any Harambee. At your medical bill, Harambee. KRA guys are there.
I assure you, no one will give more than 5,000 shillings.
You know the amount contributing, so you need to raise 100,000 to take somebody to where. You need to raise 2 million. This person needs to go to India. KRA is there.
So you add the 16% on top of it.
Imagine.
You give KRA there.
We're trying to raise 2.16 million.
Yeah, Kibaki was trying. And he pushed it through. And they kept quiet. And he got his money. City?
I'm looking at money. You do know that we are still borrowing as a country. Just so you understand, we must. Right. Kenya secures $500 million commercial loan to mitigate financing pressure. This is actually, this story was in our dailies, but it's also in the East African. Kenya has acquired a commercial loan of $500 million from a syndicate of foreign banks. Problem here is now this is a commercial debt. Recently, the World Bank announced a $1 billion loan to the country. Okay, how much?
Billion.
Dollars. The National Treasury is seeking $2 billion. So we are still shy, okay? Between May and June to ease, that's just May and June, to ease its weakening financial position. Kenya expects another $410 million from IMF in July after the country's authorities and IMF staff reached an agreement on economic policies and reforms. And these aren't loans that are going to mitigate for us for a year. It's just a couple of months. Now, I feel that given where we are and where we find ourselves, more than any other time in the history of this country, those who are given to prayer, this is the time we need to pray for this country.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the time we need to pray for the leadership so that the leadership make the right decisions in taking the country forward. The problem with things going wrong is engaging reverse gear becomes extremely difficult. So you don't want to get to a position where you're thinking, where did the rain start beating us? Anyway, I have said my piece.
Oh, yeah. We have to borrow.
Bana. So, unataka tufanyaje?
Na hakuna pesa. Haya, weka story.
NGOs under fire. See that story you're talking about, Harambe will tax you. Now, same kind of heat. Only 25% of non-governmental organizations in the country submitted the reports for the last financial year, raising concerns about their sources of funding and project undertaking. According to the NGO sector report, only 3,005 out of 12,162 licensed to operate in the country submitted their annual reports. This means that only a portion of the 175.9 billion shillings received by organizations to run projects in the country can be traced back to its source. I was going to say the inferior ministry. The Interior Ministry has warned that non-compliant organizations could be using this loophole to facilitate illicit financial flows. If you look at the numbers, we're talking about an excess of 12,000 NGOs. But it's interesting that barely 30% filed their returns in the last financial year. To me, that is an indictment, not only on the NGO Coordination Board, but also on the council that represents the board and all of us, according to the Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo. He called on the board to put in place mechanisms to encourage compliance. He said there's need to embrace transparency in your sources of funding and expenditure. And that probably explains why we are having challenges even with some of you filing returns. Maybe there are things you don't want to declare in terms of who is funding you. As a country, we are very keen to know the trail of illicit funding. Okay, so I mean, those accusations have flown about ever since NGOs made their entrance into Kenya, into other countries on the continent. And it has always been, where is this money coming from that you're using now to do these projects, if you do them at all? There's also been another allegation that, NGOs fund folks to come around and drive big vehicles and live in, expensive houses. And the question is, what actually do you do?
Haven't you just described what they do?
And this is now why the issue of illicit funds come in, illicit financial flows. Where is it coming from? And if you're not filing your return, exactly. And is this just is the country as a whole a mule for some of these things? Number one. Number two, if you do not want to file your returns, if you do not want to file your papers with the tax authority, then there's something you're hiding. I mean, after all, 1 + 1 = what?
This thing of NGOs, even the government is not honest and sincere about it. Okay. There's been a law called the Public Benefit Organizations Act.
Yes.
Okay. So where NGOs are called public benefit organizations.
That's what they're called.
This law was heavily contested. It went through Parliament, some serious discussions here and there. It was passed in Parliament. It was signed into law. Never been operationalized fully. The Public Benefit Organizations Act, never been fully organized. This is the one that manages this. There was a whole issue of whether there should be regulation and registration and regulation of NGOs and how this should be done and who should do it. Is it the NGO Coordination Board, or should we create a new entity? And this entity, does it have how much government say is there, and how much are these public benefit organizations represented in this board. All this back and forth.
And Eric, as this discussion is taking place, the coordination board still manages the affairs of NGOs.
It's still there.
Yes. And it's the one that manages these affairs. Now, you're right when you say there's a dishonest conversation about it, because if you look at the existence of NGOs and the role they play, it cuts across every sector that you can think of.
Yep.
Even the ones that we consider very fundamental, like education, health, agriculture, they exist. Okay. But when you talk about now the regulation, you want to ask yourself the question is, really, this law that was passed, what was in this law, and how do those who fall in this sector adhere to those norms? Oddly enough, I think it's one of these things where you get the impression somewhere along the line, someone decided we are not going to pay too much attention to these details.
Yeah.
Let them come, let them do what they're about to do. If there's a little noise, we will ruffle a few feathers, and then let things flow as they've been flowing.
Let the money come, let it be spent. I mean, after all, it's being spent in our community. I mean, there's a big issue here. When you say only 25% of registered NGOs are actually filing returns, and we just say, okay, well,
where?
No, that is not that is something that you should actually it should pique your attention, and you should ask what on earth is going on.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, because when you say 25%, it looks like okay, nice number, but then now when you say it is 3,000 out of 12,500, you got to ask yourself, hold on a minute, what are the rest of these folks up to?
Yep. And why aren't they filing returns? Why are they not filing returns? You talked about a cash crunch. The Nation has a story on page 14.
It's a crunch more.
Wacha nikuambie, my friend. Crunch. Crunch is not a big thing, my friend. Especially when police officers are raising a red flag of a delayed disbursement of funds for operations and failure by the state to settle pending bills which may affect the feeding of suspects in cells should suppliers withdraw their services. Should I repeat? Police officers are raising the red flag because money is not being disbursed by the government to run operations of police stations, and they are not being able to settle pending bills. That means the people who provide beans and kidogo unga and water to police stations to feed inmates.
Stop.
It's true. Before you go on, it is true.
It is true.
Because the errand guy got arrested for whatever, and he had to sleep a Friday night in the cell. And when he came out and was explaining to us what happened, he was told they were not given food.
There was no food.
There was no food. At night, in the morning, before now, he did his bail, whatever.
Hakuna chakula.
Please continue. Maybe I'm saying something totally different.
Multiple interviews with police bosses and accountants revealed a sad state of affairs where some officers are forced to fuel vehicles and buy stationery out of pocket. Through an executive order after assuming office in September, the president gave the National Police Service financial autonomy, with the IG of Police becoming the accounting officer. Delinking the police budget from the Ministry of Interior fulfilled Ruto's pledge to free law enforcement agencies from executive stranglehold. However, 9 months down the line, police are questioning the slow pace in the disbursement of funds that risk compromising the country's internal security, even as it emerged that a struggle over control of the funds between the ministry and MPS is to blame. We are yet to receive operational cash for the third and fourth quarters, which could largely interfere with our work. Police are back to that place of we don't have fuel for the vehicles. We cannot feed you. You come and stay here in these police cells.
So it's true.
Yeah.
In fact, the story is even more bizarre because
Are you kidding me?
vehicles have ground to a halt.
Imagine.
Forget the fuel. Small repair you can't, so the vehicle is sitting there staring at you. No repairs.
And that's a big one because you see, police vehicles are actually leased.
Yes, they are.
And they are on contract. The leasing company is in charge of servicing.
Yes.
Which means that there are some money that the leasing company has not been paid.
And so they've said, you just repair yourself.
You sort yourself out. Time for the news. It's 7 a.m.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice it, yeah.
spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The government is demanding that non-governmental organizations file their annual returns and declare sources of funding amid heightened vigilance against illicit financial flows. Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo termed it worrying that barely 30% of the 12,162 NGOs registered in the country filed their returns in the 2021-2022 financial year. Speaking at the launch of the annual NGO Sector Report 2021-2022, which details the activities carried out by NGOs in the financial year, Omolo described as unacceptable the low levels of compliance, adding that it is enough reason to conclude that the culprits are involved in shady activities, including terrorist financing. The ongoing debate on the Contentious Finance Bill 2023 continues to receive mixed public responses amid the divided opinion. And the Senator Samson Cherargei says members of the Kenya Kwanza Alliance do not have an option but rally behind the bill unreservedly. The outspoken legislator wants MPs allied to the ruling party to pass the bill once it is introduced in Parliament for debate. Those who fail to toe the line, according to Cherargei, must be slapped with stringent disciplinary action. He retreats that going against the ruling party and the head of state is unacceptable. This is Azimio leader Raila Odinga has asked his coalition MPs to oppose the proposed Finance Bill 2023, which will be read for the second time Thursday.
Sisi kama Azimio tutatoa msimamo wetu kamili siku ya Alhamisi. Siku ya Alhamisi tutatoa taarifa yetu kamili. Tutaeleza Wakenya kinagaubaga msimamo wetu kwa nini sisi tunapinga hiyo mswada. Ile hatua ambayo tunataka Wakenya wachukue hiyo mswada ikiletwa kule kwa vitisho wakishurutisha bunge kupitisha hiyo mswada. Lakini wabunge wetu wote tayari wameambiwa wapinge vikali hiyo mswada. Kama wewe ni mwanaazimio, pinga kabisa. Na wale wabunge ambao wataunga mkono hiyo mswada, nataka wale wapigaji kura wao waweke wao kwenye darubini ili wajue kwamba wao ni wasaliti wa wananchi.
Now, Kenya leader Martha Karuna Part has said that most of the taxes proposed in the bill are aimed at disenfranchising residents of Mount Kenya.
Many of the tax measures contained in the finance bill currently before Parliament are unreasonable and clearly directed not only at the nation but particularly at Mount Kenya businesses. The proposed turnover tax is basically a tax on assets whose primary objective is to impoverish the mamambogas, borders, and other vulnerable Kenyans struggling to make a living in these difficult economic circumstances. The majority of these businesses, small businesses, are owned largely by men and women of the mountain region.
A National Oil Corporation of Kenya Chairman Kiraiti Murungi has called on President William Ruto to invest in oil production, saying it is the answer to the current debt crisis. He said the country stands to get more than $8 billion from the Lokichar Basin alone. Money, he said, will be enough to cut aid dependency and lift millions of Kenyans out of poverty. Talo in May submitted its revised field development plan to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority and is now under review. Murungi, a former energy minister, hit out at the Uhuru administration for neglecting the oil sector despite the precious resource being discovered more than 10 years ago. The Central Organization of Trade Union Secretary General Franz Satoli has unanimously been elected as the vice chairperson of the workers group of the International Labour Conference in Geneva, Switzerland. ILC is the International Labour Organization's highest decision-making body. It meets annually, bringing together the tripartite delegations from the organization's 187 member states and a number of observers from other international actors to consider a series of topics related to the world of work placed on its agenda by the organization's governing body. This year's 111th session of the ILO is underway in Geneva under the theme Social Justice for All. Now, Astral Aviation has launched a weekly cargo flight between Nairobi and Tel Aviv following a bilateral agreement between the two countries. Speaking during the launch, Agriculture CS Mithikali Nturi said the new route will open up Kenyan produce to the Middle Eastern country. The weekly flight was part of a deal agreement between Kenya and Israel following talks between President William Ruto and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last month. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Osada. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and we're seeing traffic building up this Tuesday. It's not going to be too difficult from what we see. Jogger Road is where you see some traffic this morning. Thika Superhighway, well, okay, I take that back because it's pretty heavy, and we're looking at bumper to bumper all the way in from the Allsops Junction, and you want to use your service lanes on the Thika Superhighway. We're told that that is working, so think about doing that. Okay, so on the southern bypass, it's free and clear. It shouldn't have an issue getting into the city from there. Jogoo Road is also starting to pack up. James Gishoro busy. Looking at Oloi Tok Tok, it's touching on Wayaki Way this morning, also moving pretty slowly. Coming in from Limuru Road is starting to build up right past the hospital, Aga Khan Hospital, but not much coming in from Ruaka and Village Market and all of that. So now is the time to get out if you have not. Let's take a look in a short while and see what's happening. But Tuesday morning traffic seems to be flowing along not too poorly. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter and keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 7. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This is The Situation Room on this 6th day of the 6th month of 2023. It is Sita Sita. Hapana Sita Sita.
Sita Sita.
Sita Sita. Ya leo. Make your stand known, and that's what we'll be discussing today. We have a guest who's joining us in the studio to have a conversation on this. However, 6th day of June means that we are counting down towards the end of June, and KRA is telling you, my friend, you only have until the end of June to make sure that you file your tax returns. And if you owe us kitu kidogo, rusha kitu kidogo hapa ndio tuweze kulipa polisi waweze kununua unga, ndio watu wakilala ndani waweze kukula ugali leo usiku. You see, there's a connection to everything. All right. So have you filed
separation?
Oh yes. And you never know, you could be the one who actually spends the night in police custody tonight. You never know. Make sure you pay your taxes. File your tax returns today. Go to kra.go.ke and make sure that you file your tax returns. Are you a Kenyan who is employed, unemployed? Are you a foreigner who has a business in this country? Are you a Kenyan living abroad? Please make sure that you file your tax returns. It's very, very, very important that you do this and you do it in good time. If you've got any questions, just go to KRA on their social media. They're very, very, very active on social media. KRA Care or KRA_care. That's KRA Care on Twitter, KRA_care on Instagram. Ask them any question. They will answer you. They'll help you. They'll take you through this. But as we're talking about now, that side of, filing and paying, you can actually win.
Indeed, you can. Sarah turns 40 this month. Imagine, it's been 4 decades of shopping and fantastic dining experiences, all sorts of great stuff happening at the Sarit Centre. And so Sarit says, come and join us and celebrate this year. There's some exciting news for you. Sarit, your city in Westlands, as it turns 40 this year, is saying we're going to celebrate in a big way. So what we'd like you to do between 1 and 2 o'clock every day at lunch hour is come and shop at any of your outlets at Sarit, spend 2,040 shillings, and then you can spin the wheel and see what you would win, from a car to a cruise to memberships at gym to shopping vouchers. So many things up for grabs when you spend 2,040 shillings. And we have a hamper for you today. If you get onto our social media, Spice FM KE on Facebook, on YouTube, tell us what you would spend 2,040 shillings on at Sarit. You could win a hamper. Tell us on our socials this morning, even as you head on down to Sarit between 1 and 2 and buy something from the retail outlets. So there's double winning here. You could win a hamper. At the same time, you could get into the draw and you could win some of these fantastic prizes up for grabs as we celebrate Sarit at 40.
Bas kabisa. So today, Parliament resumes. The headline in the Standard today is that MPs are under siege, whatever that means. And if they're under siege, they're resuming because the top on the agenda will be finance bill and discussion around next year's budget. But there's also a march against the Finance Bill 2023. It's called Sita Sita, March Against Finance Bill 2023. Kenyans to carry flags and whistles. Meeting point at Jivanji Gardens at 8 a.m. on the 6th day of June 2023. One of those organizers of this particular march is Mwalimu Mutemi wa Kiama. He is the community organizer for Kongamano la Mapinduzi. He's in the studio. Good morning, Mwalimu.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Du. Good morning, City.
Welcome again to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Shukran.
Karibu sana.
Glad to be here.
You've said today is Sita Sita and hakuna kusita sita.
I am not one of the organizers, but I'm a participant. The protest today is organized by, among others, the Social Justice Movement, Kenya Human Rights Commission, na mashirika zinginezo. Leo tumesema hakuna kusita sita ya kijamii.
Sawa.
Hakuna kusita sita.
City has the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the country of Malawi. A deer tethered with a golden chain can escape to the forest to eat grass.
A deer tethered with a golden chain can escape to the forest to eat grass. Well, tell me, what do you make of this proverb?
Wow, that's a hard one. Is it an African proverb?
It's Malawian.
Malawian proverb. I think the tether, I don't know, something to do with gold being very soft, that it cannot hold back. It's an imaginary tether, or even if it exists, it's meant to create an illusion of being tethered, because gold is very soft and malleable, so it cannot really hold back a deer that wants to escape. I think that's my take.
That's your take on it.
Yeah,
it's never wrong. No, it isn't.
Yeah,
it isn't, and you're right on every account.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us about this Sita Sita march.
Remember the last conversation we had when I was here? We were talking about how the Kenyan economy does not work for Kenyans, and how it's just a continuation of the colonial extractive state. And basically, there's nothing that illustrates this. I think I was here about 2 months ago. There's nothing that illustrates this than the conversation we've had around the finance bill. Which basically is, there's a process for budgeting, and this bill kind of ignores the last several months of public participation and conversations around the proposals by the Kenya Kwanza regime. And basically what you're seeing, the intimidation that you're seeing, the headline on the Standard today, MPs under siege, is that a lot of the siege is not actually from citizens, because they're supposed to be representing us. The siege is actually from the executive. We've just seen the intimidation from the deputy president, the intimidation from the president, instructions that we will watch how you vote. I don't know how they'll do that because parliament voting is supposed to be secret ballot, and MPs are supposed to vote on using their conscience. I don't know whether they'll put a camera near the box and ask everybody, let's see how you're voting. But it's very worrying. And basically we are regressing. We are going back to the one-man show, the dictatorship. And part of the reason why there are protests today is the fact that the people are not being listened to. And by the people, I mean ordinary Kenyans, professionals, employers. I look at the finance bill. We're not even talking about what it will cost employers to, for example, the Standard Group here. I don't know how many employees the Standard Group has, that it has to pay 3% for each of those people. That's an extra hit on its bottom line in a very intimidating economic period when everything is going down. In fact, anybody who's employing people right now in Kenya who's not government are going through a lot. I wonder if anybody is making a profit. Are we looking at the effect of that on the economy? If you talk about pay slips, it's people who, in Kenya, we are very socialists, despite us calling ourselves capitalists. Anybody who has a pay slip, especially those who work for government, a policeman, a soldier, a civil servant, a teacher, the entire community depends on them. They hit onto that pay slip. I think the Standard did a calculation. If you're earning 50,000, which is the average wage of most graduates in this country, the so-called middle class, after taxation, you'll take home less than 25,000 shillings. That is before you spend money on anything. That's why you're going to the streets.
So what do you want at the end of the day today?
We want a government that listens to the people. All economic experts that have been interviewed, apart from the Kenya Kwanza parrots, have said this is not advisable. Even General Miguna, who was very supportive of this government when it was coming in, has asked the president to withdraw this finance or to revise the finance bill and remove these punitive taxes.
So what do you want? So you want a government that listens. All right. In the last 3 or so weeks, the Finance Committee of the National Assembly has been listening, has been inviting people to speak to it, has been receiving memoranda. Have you sent your memorandum to the Finance Committee?
We have sent memoranda. Various organizations that I partner with, including Okwa Uchumi. There's actually a petition, an online petition that I developed that is going around. Kenyans are signing. Is on change.org. But also those submissions have been done to Parliament. What is intimidating is the fact that just this weekend the Deputy President said it doesn't matter what you protest or they send those memoranda or whatever you do, ishapita.
Okay. If we're coming off that last statement that you said, Mutemi, if we're saying, because it's a bit of a difficult conversation to have, isn't it? If for all intents and purposes, this is a fait accompli, from all that we've heard, and now we are saying, we want you to listen to us as government, for who is the audience here? Who is the one who then would listen and do something about it if we've already been told, not once, not twice, by the deputy president, by the president, and said, look, this thing is going to go through, it's going to go through. Who are we hoping will listen that will then bring about change? Because I do believe strongly that activism, even as we act, even as we speak out, even as we continually lobby for or against things, there is an audience then that is influenced to answer in one way or another.
In this particular case, our audience is Parliament, because now the bill is before Parliament. It has not become law yet. It has not become an act of Parliament. And we are telling our MPs that if you don't listen to us, I think there's evidence enough in the last few weeks that Kenyans are totally engaged on this issue,
yes,
on this matter. In fact, we've seen some MPs actually changing their position from where they were a few weeks ago to where they are today, and standing with the people. We've seen MPs going back to the ground to consult. But what has been most interesting is the reaction of some of the social media platforms. And especially from Rift Valley, where the president comes from. It's been surprising to see a lot of resistance on TikTok coming from the Rift Valley. And you're saying the MPs need to listen. And if they don't listen, I think, apart from the fact that I think this time Kenyans will not return them, they are. What you're doing, for example, the protest that you're organizing will build up towards probably a referendum to do away with Parliament. Because
you just repeat that again, Mutemi?
Yes, a referendum to do away with Parliament. If you look at it structurally, Parliament serves no purpose in terms of the Constitution 2010. It was actually just kept there to pass the Constitution because they could not do away with it. But if you look at our administrative structures, the National Assembly serves absolutely no purpose. In fact, what it has become now is just a rubber stamp of the executive. And it keeps passing laws that are anti-people. So there are quite serious discussions going on around kupunguza the mzigo. That Kenyans, the burden of Kenyans with 349 members of parliament, to look at that structure, because the devolution said, let's take power to the people, let's devolve power. And the units of devolution, the county government, the wards, and the village councils. What is parliament supposed to do? What is it for? Anyway, or rather, parliament, by parliament I mean the National Assembly.
Okay.
What purpose does it serve for, apart from just passing anti-people laws?
So there's a lot that you're saying, and let's unpack it. Okay, number one, focusing on the finance bill. Yes, there has been a lot of conversation around the country on the finance bill. Some debates, discussions on the contents of the finance bill. Some engagement at various levels. But as civil society organizations, and you play in the civil society space, do you feel the civil society has actually taken the job of having explainers with the public that this is what, basically just conducting civic education, this is the content of the finance bill, and letting the people to talk? Today's demonstrations are being organized by, among others, the social justice networks. Have the social justice networks actually held meetings at community level to discuss the finance bill in detail? Not just coming and saying, Hatutaki Housing Fund, but just going in detail. These are the areas that the finance bill is harmful to us, and these are the areas that we don't have a problem with, because, I mean, you can't have a problem with 100% of the finance bill.
The conversations have happened. Actually, they're still ongoing. Just yesterday in Mathare, Senator Omtata and part of the civil society social justice working group and some NGOs were hosted by citizens, and they had those conversations. But even beyond that is that where we are today, Kenyans know these things. They understand these things. Actually, I'm so surprised by the pushback that has come from what are called ordinary Kenyans, although I don't believe they are ordinary and extraordinary Kenyans. I think all Kenyans should be the same. The pushback shows that Kenyans understand the issues. But also, if you look at the petition, the online petition, those issues are listed. If you look at the graphics that are being shared on social media, the contentious issues have been listed. Tax on baby formula, tax on insurance benefit. I heard you discussing issues of during the Kibaki government, taxation on Harambee. The difference between now and then is actually, and we've been quoting Singapore a lot. Actually, the difference between now and then is that in the 70s, when Kibaki was the Minister for Finance or Planning, Singapore was built on what we call meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty, and that is what we lack. In fact, if you look at during the Kibaki's reign as president, Kenyans pay taxes willingly because we had an honest government. We were told kulipa ushuru kujitegemea, and we reduced corruption initially. Towards the end, of course, we went back to default settings. And Kenyans were willing to pay because they could see what the resources were being used for. If you're taxing people harambe, and they can see what the taxes are going to do, people will pay. Kenyans have always, Kenyans have always been very law abiding, wanting to support government. But unfortunately, the regime we have is not honest. It is not meritocratic. And it's not pragmatic. If you look, how do you add 8% to fuel when you're going to double almost everything, the cost of everything? How is that being pragmatic? And you're quoting Singapore.
Are there parts of this finance bill that you are okay with?
Very few. There are very few. There's an attempt to expand taxation beyond the current the current payslip. People who have payslips, but this is being done in a way that you're putting punitive taxes. You're actually putting the burden even on the people with payslips who've been dutifully paying taxes, and this is part of the things you're saying we need to discuss. And experts have given, tax experts have given opinions on how this can be done more effectively. Don't squeeze the ones who are already totally squeezed. Spread this to other sectors, but also don't. And Devon D, my friend and someone who I've always respected, I can't believe the iteration I'm seeing, because he spoke a lot to all these man of taxations that are being proposed when he was not in government, and he gave adequate reasons. I don't want to go into them. They're actually available online, and his articles that he's written in The Nation and other spaces. This is not the way to expand the cake, to the piece of the ugali. Let's say we were talking about ugali earlier on. This is not how to cook the ugali and make sure that everybody, by squeezing those who are already overly burdened.
Do you think that there will, because people will lobby today, people will be out in the streets, do you think that the resultant effect of this will actually bring about the attention onto action that we seek?
The challenge you have, actually, if the elephant in the room is debt. And this debt that civil society has spoken about, I think as early as 2014, I wrote to the controller of debt at that time, asking, could we see the debt register?
Yeah.
And there was no reply, because we could see that's 9 years ago. We could see where we're headed, and that's the borrowing that has happened in the last regime, of which the current, president was the deputy president, which he justified. The Gachagua deputy president also justified, went to defend on TV and radio. Kimani Ichung'wah, the majority leader, was in charge of the public accounts committee, budget. He defended all that spending. He, in fact, he was in charge of expanding the borrowing, removing debt limits. So that is the elephant in the room. And that is what is being obfuscated by all these other, the fact is that the IMF has told the government of Kenya, if you want to borrow, I heard you talking about borrowing earlier on, you need to guarantee us that you can raise revenues.
Yes.
But we also know that according to the government itself, we lose 700 billion every year. And we say that so casually as if it's
2 shillings.
2 shillings. You know what a billion is? I heard you talk about 2,000 shillings raffle at Sarit. Eric, if you got 1 billion shillings today, or city, and you spent 10,000 shillings every day, umalize. every day you spend 10,000 shillings. It would take you 273 years to finish 1 billion shillings.
How much is it? Sorry?
273 years.
Spending 10,000 a day.
10,000 a day. If you spent 100,000 a day, it would take you 27 years to finish 1 billion shillings. So we throw around these figures as if they're nothing. Yet we are talking about losing 700 billion. Thika Road costs 20 something up to, let's say, around roughly 27 billion, around 30 billion.
That's a 30.
So 300 billion can build you 10 Thika roads. 700 billion can build you 20 Thika roads every year. That is every year. So if you look at when Thika road was built, since then, every road in Kenya, including in my village in Kirinyaga, would be a dual carriageway if we spent that money prudently. So it's not that we don't have the money. We are expanding the tax base. It's just we need to, spend the money prudently. Bodonyo Uko said, the intimidation that we're seeing in Parliament, they're under siege. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, you have a parliament of wash, and you're going after NGOs. It's intimidation actually, going after NGOs according to those headlines. And you rightly talked about the PBO Act that was signed into law in 2013 by Mwai Kibaki. The then government refused to implement the PBO Act. And that's after years of contestation for it to be passed, including the government agreeing to it and being signed into law by Mwai Kibaki. And then the NGO board refused, because the NGO board wanted to continue in the new authority that was proposed by the Act, then refused to operationalize, to work with the minister to operationalize the law. And NGOs went to court to ask for the law to be implemented, not for it not to be implemented. The impression is that it's NGOs that don't want accountability.
That are fighting.
No, they went and they want it implemented. And since 2013, there have been several judgments by courts on that. And what has government been doing? It has been that time it was in the devolution ministry.
Yeah.
Now it was moved. The statement you read is by the Ministry of Interior. After the courts ruled, they moved the department to the Ministry of Interior to defeat the law. So for 10 years, since 2013, the government has been playing hide and seek with the courts on the same law that they're saying NGOs are not being accountable. That's the kind of, that's the kind of shenanigans that we are saying. That's why you're going to the streets. Implement the law, then you tell us, hold us to account to that law that was signed into law by Mwai Kibaki.
Let's take a break.
These kind of things.
It's 28 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation with Mutemi Wakema, who's a community organizer with Kongamano la Mapinduzi. He's one of those that will be participating in today's street march, Sita Sita March Against Finance Bill 2023. They are congamanaing at Jivanji Gardens at 8 a.m. to have this march and to protest against the finance bill. So what we want to understand is, so what exactly do you want to see at the end of this day? So yeah, you have marched, you're holding the placards, and then at the end of the day you go home, and then just like Rigiji told us, this thing becomes law. So then what? What's the point? Let's discuss that after this break. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 15, highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 25. In a clear in Nakuru at 14. It's 15 and cloudy in Nyeri, and 13 and clear in Eldoret. 23 degrees and mostly clear in Mombasa, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well. In a clear Malindi at 25. It's 20 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 28, and at 15, Kakamega is cloudy, going to highs of 28. 19 and cloudy in Kampala, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 30 in a cloudy Dar es Salaam at 24. It's 9 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 20 today, and at 27, Lagos is mostly cloudy, we'll go to highs of 30, and Kinshasa will go to highs of 31 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
All right, coming in all the way from Githurai today, way past the Kasarani Junction. We're looking at traffic coming into the city right through to the Thika Superhighway, out then towards the Pangani Underpass. Kiambu is busy, Kiambu Road that is. In and outbound traffic is probably all the lanes that are coming in towards Muthaiga Square. We're seeing some movement on James Gishuru. It's going to spill over towards Wayaki Way, so watch out for that. Nothing too bad or out of whack. But just to let you know, if you're heading in that direction, that is what lies ahead. We're looking at traffic on Gong Road, getting into the CBD, and some of it feeding off then from your other smaller inlet roads. So let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter and keep things moving this Tuesday.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
It's being planned for today by some civil society organizations and social justice networks. That is Sita Sita March Against Finance Bill 2023. One of the people who will be attending this is Mutemi Wakema, who's a community organizer with Kongamano la Mapinduzi. And we are asking to understand what the intended outcome or output of today is. So what is the plan? The plan is to march around the streets of Nairobi. Are you going to Parliament? Are you going to the Finance Ministry? Are you going to State House? Where will you be going?
Usually,
what's the message?
The route is from Jivanji to Treasury, and then to Parliament, and we present petitions. Part of the petitions is it's mostly symbolic because procedurally, the submissions from civil society organizations have already been submitted to the Parliamentary Committee, just to make sure that Kenyans are aware, and the MPs are aware that we are following up. We're not just submitting these and sitting in the sidelines as the debate ranges. Eric, if you look at the last 3 years, we've had a drought in northern Kenya. It hasn't rained. Then when it rained, a lot of livestock passed on, died. And then when it rained, a lot of them also died. The ones that had remained because the water, the floods, and that kind of thing. But the worst thing is that we do not plan for these things. And this has been happening since independence. Now we have El Nino on the way. We already know. The meteorological department has predicted, not just the local one that some people don't trust, but even the global one. And that information is available. What are we doing, for that water, in planning for that water that is expected to be surplus? Since the Kibaki regime, we've allocated billions, I think hundreds of billions, towards dams, earth ponds, etc., ways to retain water so that you mitigate effects of drought. These are the kind of things you expect to talking about our MPs to be questioning where did that money go, because we don't have the dams, we don't have the funds, and you spent hundreds of billions towards that. Instead of squeezing Kenyans even more, when people can barely put food on the table. In fact, I'm wondering, with the current cost of a packet of unga or sugar, how some people are even being able to go to work. So we are saying we need this conversation to be had, and we also need to debate this colonial extractive state, whether we still want to be part of it. Because taxation without representation, then what does that mean?
It doesn't serve us. But then there's a lot of talk, Mutemi, and that's why I keep asking this question. We talk all the time. I mean, there's been public discussion about this finance bill. People have gone, yourselves included, you have gone before Parliament, you have presented your petition. They listened to various interest groups who came and presented, and Parliamentary Committee did what it was supposed to do. It has listened to people, it asked questions, it engaged. The report is going to Parliament. It'll comprise all those things, it'll be having all those inputs and their considered view on all those inputs. We follow due process. So why do we need to keep talking?
If this bill passes as it is, first of all, it's going to hit not just the ordinary. Initially, it's going to hit the employers. So people are already talking about rationalizing jobs. Firing some people, basically they're going to fire people. So even the current taxpayers are going to reduce. It's not going to spur economic growth, according to a lot of experts who have analyzed this bill. So what are we saying? As you've said, enough of the talk. That's why Kongamano la Mapinduzi, we're in the process of mobilizing and organizing for a referendum, which you're calling the Punda Amechoka referendum. I heard Baba the other day talking about Punda Amechoka. That's we've not consulted, or he's not consulted us, but we have a referendum that we're organizing called Punda Amechoka. And I hope I can come back and discuss that in depth. But basically what it is about is reducing the number of MPs at the national level, from the current ones, collapsing the two houses into one, so that we have one National Assembly and a true National Assembly, doing away with the current constituencies as they exist, and having the county become the constituency, so that we elect 4 MPs per county, just the way we elect the woman MP today. Each county gives us 1 man, 1 woman, 1 young person, and 1 special interest, so that we actually have gender 50-50. And then we reduce the number of MPs. 47 times 4 is 188. We reduce your mzigo tupunguze kabisa.
Yeah.
But we also have, because we now have county MPs sent to the National Assembly to represent Kenyans and their counties and to fight for the national cake, then we change that dynamic, whereby we have actually people who represent us, no taxation without representation. These people will go there to represent the wishes of the people in the counties. We need to change that governance structure. And the best way for that to gain momentum, actually, is for this finance bill to pass as it is in Parliament. We shall not continue talking.
Okay. Yes. I do feel, though, that when we look at again, going back to lobbying, that for me, in order for the results of lobbying to be achieved or attained, that act of lobbying must be constant. The activism must be constant. It must be known to those who are in these positions that the people in general are not going to keep quiet once they're satisfied by just a little bite of the carrot. That it must be a situation that continually keeps them on their toes. In the very beginning, Mutemi, you spoke and you said that almost as though you don't have confidence in Parliament. This comes before Parliament today, this finance bill. They're going to discuss this, then they will vote on it, in time. We are almost saying that we don't have confidence in them. We've talked about corruption, that some of the issues that are even surrounding this finance bill are not even issues to do with the brick and mortar of the bill, but it's the issues that are around it. Corruption, impunity, the theft of public resources that has happened over time, that are basically taking food out of the, not plates, out of the mouths of Kenyans before it goes down. But I'm not even saying that we're not taking leaders seriously. Leaders are not taking Kenyans seriously because the constant push to have them be accountable does not exist. In my opinion, that there's a finance bill, then we make a lot of noise, then we go and sit down. Then something else comes up, then we make a lot of noise, then we sit down. It has to be constant in order for it to achieve something, but they know that maybe some noise will happen and then after some time there will be silence. What do you think about that?
That's a very powerful point. Is what we call democracy thrives when you have what is called eternal vigilance. And human nature calls for us to have eternal vigilance. And remember the conversation we had last time and what I started with. We have what we call an extractive colonial state, basically capitalism. And what it does is that it keeps the people impoverished so that you can have a labor of pool, a cheap pool of labor. Pool of labor. So you're talking about people who, when a packet of unga is going for 250, cannot even earn 250 shillings in a day. So it becomes a challenge for the ordinary person to keep that vigilance because they have to survive. It's survival for the fittest. And that is why NGOs exist. But even NGOs, right now, we are talking about a period where even those who have been funding NGOs, and especially the foreigners who have been funding us, are tired of funding. Because that money comes from the ordinary Wanjiko in Britain or in the UK, US or wherever. Yeah. And even them, they are facing their own challenges. In fact, part of the work that I'm doing right now is to try and find ways to fundraise locally, to get Kenyans. The other day I was in Marsabit, and I was trying to mobilize a few of my friends to support 30 families for 3 months at 12,000 shillings a month. But why are we doing that? Why should we be doing that in a country that at independence said, those are some of the things that were supposed to be addressed. Those are basics. Food is a basic. Housing, shelter should be basic. Yet our people cannot even afford. For example, right now, a lot of these protests, I've seen something different on TikTok right now because Kenyans are asking even Baba, where are you? Call those mandamanos now. But there's something very rare. Most of the time, NGOs have to give the protesters, what is called transport reimbursement. And basically transport reimbursement is saying, okay, today you've not gone to look for that 200 bob that you used to feed your family. So just get this because you've curbed. But that situation is also not sustainable. Where is that money coming from? But what this government is pushing us to, if TikTok is anything to go by, is that now you don't need to even give anybody transport reimbursement. We just need to be much more organized.
They will come.
They will come and march. And that is the situation, personally, I can tell you, as someone who's as a middle class person, I've been trying to avoid. We've been trying to ask for,
It's today that we will see whether indeed, people are just willingly going to come out and participate in a demonstration. If your demonstration today is able to mobilize people who have heard about it, who've seen the social media flyers going round, and they willingly come out to join you in the demonstration, in the march, because it's a march, it's not. If people come out, then we can say, okay, there's a shift here, there's a change, there's how people react. But I want to come back to the question. Look, Mutemi, this is June. The financial year ends at the end of this month. A new financial year begins next month. The finance bill must be law by the end of this month. So then the government is able to know how it's raising revenues for the next budget. So as we all say, we are opposed to the finance bill, are we opposing the bill in its entirety? Excuse me. Are we opposing sections of the bill? Are we saying what we want to see instead? how we want to finance government operations in the next financial year. Is that what we are having? We'll be having a conversation with the Deputy Minority Leader at 9 a.m. today. And of course, we've heard Azimio saying we are going to reject this bill. The so what question comes in. And then what?
I think
so you want to say no to the finance bill, and then what?
Eric, I think it's been, Kenyans have been very vocal about the sections of the bill that they want amended. But the thing is, there's already a Finance Act in place. Government is not going to collapse because we don't pass this. What actually we are passing, the proposed bill, is an amendment to the Finance Act.
Yeah.
So already the taxation will continue based on
the existing law.
The existing law. So it's not, there are people are saying government is going to collapse if we don't pass the finance bill and all that. It's not going to. Government is going to go. Those laws, the taxation, will continue. What we are opposed to are the punitive, violative, how do you tax insurance benefits, surely, in a country where even that, even getting paid for, those benefits are very hard to come by for insurance. How do you even target that? How do you sit down and say, okay, what are you going to tax?
What's here?
Insurance benefits. Like, what kind of insidiousness is that level? Or baby formula? And what has gotten, that's what the elephant in the room. Let's address what has gotten us there. President Ruto came in and said, we are going to, the previous budget, we're going to reduce it by 300 billion. What did they do? They increased by 600 billion. So where is the honesty? If you're talking about being like Singapore, where is the, like show us. In fact, if this government had shown us in the last 8 months that they've been in power, that they are honest, that these actually attempts to reduce the wastage, then we'd be having a very different conversation right now.
If I were to look at politicians and those in leadership and look at them as individuals who mirror what we as Kenyans actually are, then I would say that even when we say we're having an honest conversation, we are not. Because, yes, from everything that one reads and one hears, this finance bill is atrocious, and they'd like to do away with it. You and your groupings have come up with what you see as a solution, and you have suggested. Yet, this very same constitution allows the citizens to kick out leaders they don't want. Whether it's an MCA, whether it's an MP, we only know of governors because of what we've seen. Now, surely, even as we go through this painful process of trying to enact what we know could work, the one action that would get people thinking seriously is if they knew they would lose their jobs. So long as members of parliament know they have 5 years, irrespective of what they do, how they vote, what they do, do you really honestly think, Mutemi, that they will actually be bothered by what we think or what we do?
That's again that's why I love this show, a very powerful point. We have a recall clause in our laws, and that recall clause was designed, I think, by the 10th Parliament to not work.
Yes,
because it says, I remember Mother Carol was the Minister for Justice then, and she's my cousin. I'm calling her out. That it requires, you cannot recall somebody if they've not been in Parliament for 2.5 years. And then you cannot recall them if we are 1 year to the next election. So what that does in this very litigant society is that you can basically not recall anybody. You cannot. That law is actually designed to fail, which is why Kongamano la Mapinduzi and other organizations are organizing a referendum to reorganize some of these laws. Kongamano la Mapinduzi, hopefully, we are mobilizing Kenyans, and hopefully we want to register a political party within 2 or 3 years. One of the things we want for that political party that is truly bottom up is that you sign an affidavit. If you're going to be nominated to be a candidate in any office, you go and swear before a competent officer of the law that you're being sent to go and represent X, Y, Z. We are calling it kiapo. And if you don't, regardless of what the legal clause says, we can withdraw that support. And once you withdraw that support, you lose your seat because you've already committed to it at a personal level.
So like a social contract.
It's a social contract with the people. So we pointed out to the gaps that we have. And again, we can't continue talking and asking and begging our MPs to do this. So that's why we are saying Kongamano Mapinduzi is actually about what can we really do, because you can see the patterns of the last 60 years.
When Ford was formed, the principles that guided the formation were even stronger than the ones you're uttering now. And when you look at the body of individuals who were there, who had suffered under the Moi regime, and what they stood for, then what did we see?
And you know what happened? They were bought one by one. They were bought out. What we have, and I can confidently say this about Kongamano Mapinduzi, is that part of the challenge you have actually, even the civil society space, is that we are not saints. There are issues there.
They're human beings.
The human beings are not saints. So what we've learned from our elders and from the failures of the people who've organized before us is that let's put systems in place. Let's put systems in place to hold each other to account. If you see the biggest fights that have come from the last Uhuru's regime and this regime are against the so-called independent institutions. Why? Because these independent institutions, should they work, means that that 700 billion that we lose every year is going to be at least reduced. We can't eat as much as we want. If you look at the proposed amendment to the corruption law, there's an MP who, I don't know why he would even try to pass that at this time when Kenyans are discussing the finance bill, that kind of reduces the offense if you're involved in procurement, whatever, designing a procurement law, that still, I don't know, the fine is being reduced to 10,000 shillings. So basically they are telling us they want us to be able to loot, to continue the extraction, it's called what? The colonial extractive.
Mutemi, the thing that concerns me, every time I listen to you, I do not doubt that you are sincere. I do not doubt. I do not doubt you mean what you say. But the underlying rot is that we have very many people in the space that you occupy who say exactly the same things that you say. But when push, it doesn't even get to shove. It just starts at push. And suddenly you're wondering what happened. Because if indeed this Kongamano, the
Mapinduzi,
the Mageuzi is mine.
The difference is Mageuzi is reform.
Yes.
Mapinduzi is revolution.
Yes.
So we're not calling for reform anymore.
You're calling for revolution.
Couple the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see, in all sincerity, don't you think that if the people you are now congregating with and talking with were of a mind similar to yours, that a lot more would have happened by now?
That's a very good point. And the attrition also in the struggle is a very serious issue, because it's very hard to continue struggling, and especially in this very thankless country where even the people you're working for are the ones who fight you.
With these thankless people
are fighting you, and you have bills to pay. You have families to take.
You have a life to live.
You have a life to live. So it's not easy, and I don't actually blame anybody who decides, no, I cannot do this anymore. Because one of my mentors in organizing, Scott Solalinsky, I think I've quoted him before, says you organize in the world as it is, as you organize towards the world as it should be. So we are in a society that is the way it is. It's corrupt. It's debilitating. Living every day is a struggle. So you have to realize, and that's why it takes time. That's why, but there are people who are committed. I can tell you this, for example, because we've been organizing with them for the last 3 years. Kongamano na Mageuzi is how we started. People got tired and stepped. We were infiltrated. Others steps aside, fell aside. We went back and regrouped. And we are moving. And that's not to say some of us will not fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
But we have, it's as Ndu said, eternal vigilance. We have to continue organizing. But the difference with Kongamano, this is again from what we've learned from our elders, people like CJ Emeritus, William Tunga, people like John Gidongo, people like Maina Kiai who come. They said what they did not do is that they did not seek the political kingdom. So Kongamano Mapinduzi is not a social movement, it's a political movement. We are organizing to take over politics in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And we're organizing long term. We're not reacting to the usual electoral cycles.
Because it's a long game.
So we are playing the long game. In fact, I'm sure Ruto and Gachagua should not be threatened by Kongamano because unless they decide to change the constitution to continue, to remove term limits, they will not be our target. Our target is 2032. Can we field candidates in every office who are pro-people?
Okay. Yeah. Mutemi, thank you very much for joining us today. Mutemi Wakema is the community organizer for Kongamano la Mapinduzi. He's one of those who will be out on the streets today, Sita March Against the Finance Bill 2023. Keep it here for more conversations. It's 8 a.m.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto has said that in order for slum dwellers to have upgraded living conditions, sacrifices must be made. Ruto said that in his bottom-up economic model, every Kenyan will be able to sustain themselves and rise.
We have integrated universal housing as a critical pillar of the national bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Into the housing program, we have further mainstreamed sustainable urban practices of green building, green spaces, adoption of low-carbon energy use, including low-carbon transport solutions.
And governors can now have a sigh of relief after Treasury announced it will be disbursing April funds this week. Addressing the media, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said that the May arrears will be released by next week. The DP was speaking after chairing the 20th Intergovernmental Budget Economic Council meeting. Nigeria CS Kithure Kindiki has retweeted the government's commitment to dealing with rogue preachers, saying they will face the full wrath of the law. Speaking when he commissioned police divisional headquarters in Wundanyi, Taveta County, Kindiki appealed to Kenyans to submit their views to the task force tasked with looking into laws governing religious organizations.
All people of this country should make a point of contributing their views to the task force that has been established to recommend the legal, policy, administrative, and procedural measures that we need to adopt to make sure that never again in our country we have the kind of injury that we got through Mr. Mackenzie and his collaborators.
Just 2 weeks after taking leadership at the Kemsa board following the 3.7 billion shilling scandal, the new board has started making changes. The new board has started by revoking the list of companies scheduled to be given tenders for the purchase of equipment. Kemsa board chairperson Irungu Nyakera has ordered for an audit to weed out ghost workers.
Immediately revoke the current list of pre-qualified suppliers and restart an objective process afresh to ensure that only companies that provide value for money are pre-qualified. Immediately review all ongoing contracts that have been procured through single sourcing and monopoly action and are costly to the institution. Any contract that is found to not to be providing value for money will be forwarded to the Public Procurement Authority and the EACC for investigation. We will review and audit the human capital of the organization within 2 weeks from today through a staff needs assessment and document validation with a view to retaining qualified staff and redeploying them in line with departmental needs.
This comes just 3 weeks after President William Ruto made changes to the board due to the mosquito net scandal. And preparations have commenced for this year's Turkana Tourism and Cultural Festival, popularly known as Tabonglore, scheduled to take place in August 2023 at Enkale's Cultural Center in Lodwar. The festival aims to attract businessmen seeking opportunities to capitalize on the event, as well as artists, government officials, and festival goers looking to immerse themselves in the cultural celebrations. County Secretary Peter Eripete presided over the inaugural planning event, emphasizing that it was a county event involving all the departments, with the tourism and culture department assuming the crucial coordination role. And a pastor in Embu County has been charged with raping a member of his congregation. Benson Monique Njuki of Full Gospel Church, Karurina, was charged with raping a 22-year-old woman on June 1st at Karurina village in Embu West. Pastor Njuki was accused of penetrating the woman and also caressing her genitalia without her consent. According to court documents, the woman is said to have been in a prayer session at Njuki's church, kneeling down when the man of cloth raped her. All this time, the court was told, the pastor is said to have dressed in his official church robe. And former Trans Nzoia County Assembly staff staged peaceful demonstrations of unpaid gratuity for the period they served in the county government. The former staff demonstrated at the Assembly demanding for their dues, accusing the leadership of a scheme to swindle their funds. Led by Paul Kidero, the workers said that it is an insult by the county Assembly leadership to pay them the little money while paying former MCAs their full amount. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, we are in traffic hour proper this morning, and it's busy wherever you want to look at it. If you're coming into the city from Waiaki Way this morning, it's bumper to bumper. Gong Road is also doing the same. Naivasha Road, then heading out towards, either going towards Gong Road or then you're touching on Riara Road and then getting onto James Gishuru. That is very busy. Coming in from Kileleshwa on Baya Road, and then out towards Lavington, that also is bumper to bumper, interestingly enough. So on your highways and into the neighborhoods, very, very busy traffic this morning. Waiaki Way then into the city also looking like something. Red Hill Link Road, use it if you don't want to get stuck on Waiaki Way this morning, getting into the city. Kiambu Road is an absolute mess. People are saying prayers to God and their ancestors to be able to get off of Kiambu Road today because it's madness. Also, we're looking at the Thika Superhighway in from that drift at Tutali. It's moving in slowly into the city, and now is when we see traffic just around Limuru Road doing the thing that it does every morning. Very, very busy. It doesn't matter where you are this morning. Let us know what's happening so that we can, inform folks of where to go or what to stay away from. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter, even as we attempt to keep things moving this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
7 minutes
the
after
only
8.
way
Good
to...
morning. We're still live on Spice FM and KTN and YouTube and Facebook as we get into the third hour of the Situation Room. This 6th day of June 2023. At Sarit celebrates 40 years in existence.
As you try to wrap your head around the fact that Sarit has been around for 4 decades, how about you head on down between 1 and 2 p.m. every day to the Sarit Centre in all of the different retail outlets and see if you can shop for 2,040 shillings. 2,040 shillings. And then you go down to the information desk and you put in your receipt and you can enter into a draw. You spin the wheel and see where you land. You could win a car. You could win a cruise. You could win shopping vouchers. All sorts of fantastic stuff. So you can do that while you're there as Sarit celebrates 40. You can also get onto our socials on Spice FM KE on YouTube and Facebook. Tell us what you would spend 2,040 shillings on at Sarit, and you have a chance to win a hamper as Sarit turns 40.
Indeed. That is if you'd like to be a billionaire.
I want to be a billionaire. Okay.
Big time.
So freaking bad.
Big time. Congratulations to Sarit Centre on their 40th anniversary. We have another guest in the studio. He is the new chairman of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, Kemsa. He's also still the party leader of the Farmers Party, Irungu Nyakera. Good morning, Bwana Chairman.
Good morning, and thanks a lot for having me here.
Karibu sana. How's it getting into the board of Kemsa? You know, it's like going to Marafa Hell's Gate at 12 midday. Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
It's just hot.
Yes.
Is it?
I think when I was appointed, a lot of people send me congratulatory remarks, notes, and others were just telling me I really wish you all the best.
Congratulations and condolence.
And condolence. It's like, we've seen many people go there and they don't come out of it looking too good.
We've seen what has happened to previous holders of this particular office.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a big thing. Is it a big shoe?
It's big, certainly big, and the fact that it was in the public eyes, lost the image has been tainted and lost face. So there's a lot to do internally, but also externally for people to start viewing it differently. Kemsa is very critical. It's one of the 4 pillars of the universal health coverage pillar. So if it fails, if it does not perform, then of course that whole pillar will collapse.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll ask you a couple of questions just to see, what you have learned so far about the organization, what the issues are in the organization, and what you and your board are planning to do to right the ship. But to welcome you, Bwana Muga has the day's proverb.
I do. Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Malawi.
And you said the president is?
The president of Malawi, take a guess. Do?
Lazarus.
Lazarus who?
Chakwera.
Dr.
Lazarus Chakwera.
Yes, he's also a man of God.
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah, he lived in Buruburu for a while.
He did.
Teaching there at the Kenya.
He did.
School. It's called the East African School of Theology.
I am aware there's a theological college there, just like I am aware there's a school of aviation in Buruburu. But the full names I do not know.
You don't know?
No.
That one is called East.
Yes.
East Africa School of Theology.
Yes.
Theology.
His VP is called Saulos Chilima.
Saulos. Okay.
I mean,
Eric wants to give him another name. Just let him for today.
No, Saulos is good enough.
It's okay?
My goodness, that thing's sticking in his head. Saulos is a good name. Okay. A deer tethered with a golden chain can escape to the forest to eat grass. That's our proverb from Malawi for the day.
A deer tethered with a golden chain
can escape
to the forest to eat grass.
Yes.
Chairman.
Gold chain notwithstanding.
What's your interpretation of that proverb?
Ni kama utalilia kwa Range Rover.
Yeah. Ama kwa bodaboda.
Ama utacheka kwa bodaboda.
Means the same thing?
I think it does.
Okay. Yesterday, your board released a statement, and this is what you said. This is Kemsa's board unveils major reforms, and among the things that you did was, looking at procurement, looking at digitization, financial controls, looking at the human resource, and all those. Of course, what was big in the news is that you have said all the companies that had been pre-qualified to supply Kemsa, you have pulled the rug under them, no more pre-qualification. You also said that all those that have been single-sourced, you are reviewing all those contracts for companies that have been single-sourced and are single supplying to Kemsa, and you're introducing a lotting system in procurement that will set an upper financial limit beyond which no single bidder will win contracts. This and the other. Explain. What exactly was that?
So essentially, Kemsa's biggest issue is on procurement, because even when the president appointed me chair, he called me and told me about the role and what he wants me to go do and why he picked me. But more importantly, he just told me when I get there to beware of cartels, that they are cartels. And you see what cartels do is they really take control, and means that there are no policies being followed anymore, and it's never fair game for anybody else to play in that space. Kemsa, when USAID was also there, you're talking of over 50 billion in procurements in a year. Yeah, so it's huge procurements. You find, like, for example, when on HIV alone it's over 15 billion, on TB, on malaria. So what you found is some individuals then came in and got what is called framework agreements. You get an agreement which technically then means that going forward that item will never be procured
by anybody else.
So you've been given 2-year contract that anytime that item is being procured, it's just you who will be called and told deliver. During that period, you can increase your price, you can change the location, you can say that the dollar has gone up, increase how much you're paying me, and you will be paid.
But it's within a framework.
It's within the framework.
Okay.
Yeah.
The framework also looks at, you can't just willy-nilly wake up today and decide, so I'm increasing the price by 500%.
No, you can't. But then also, if you say that we will not be able to deliver at that old price, we need to sit and renegotiate, then you will sit and renegotiate, because then you're the only one who can deliver paracetamol. Yeah, hospitals need paracetamol. You're the only one who will deliver gloves. Hospitals need gloves. Yeah, so that's what has held captive and hostage the organization.
Are there benefits to this structure? Because for people to have arrived at an understanding that they wanted to enact it and to operationalize it,
the only benefit is actually in terms of deliveries, delivery time. So you essentially, because you always have someone who can deliver it, you'll never run out of that stock.
But are they the only people who can deliver it? And is it only with one firm, or are there several firms? Because if for some reason or the other somebody can't deliver and it's only one, therein lies an error.
Exactly.
Yes.
So in many cases, it's actually just one firm that then gets that whole.
But for a set period.
2 years.
Like it's a 2-year period.
So 2 years, then 2 years, of course, do whatever it takes to get renewed. Yeah. Put out to everybody.
You deliver.
Else. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I have a problem here.
Why?
Because if you are saying that you have this arrangement and only one firm is allowed to procure under this particular structure, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Already you have a problem.
It's single sourcing. It's a monopoly.
Already there's a problem. A huge one.
Yeah. And that's why so I'm saying, even if they increase the prices, nobody will even look at it, because within the framework that item is no longer up for discussion. Yeah. And those are the things that we've cancelled. And that's why we are saying, for the next year or so, we will not use framework agreements.
Okay.
All the items will be procured openly, and properly. Will ensure that the quantities that are being procured are procured such that we will still not have stockouts, and they'll be procured as frequently as need be. But open it up for Kenyans. On the issue of having an upper limit, what I was saying is, when someone gets a tender for 2-3 billion, why should it be so when you can have 10 Kenyans getting tenders of 300 million? having just different deliveries, what we used to call lotting. And it's there within the procurement process. When I was in PS for transport, on the roadside, there were lots. You get a road is 100 kilometers, 3 companies get 30 kilometers each,
to finish the road.
The specs are the same, but then it means that in terms of delivery times is faster, in terms of distribution of risk, the risk is distributed, and in terms of even financial gains, there are more people then who get to benefit financially, not just one individual.
But with this framework, are you limited to only having one entity procuring? Can't you have a framework with, say, 4 entities
you
or
can,
5?
You can. You know what? The corruption starts at the specifications, at the point of specification. Yeah. So you see, like, for example, if you are to specify a meeting to be held on Mombasa Road, I say first that meeting has to be on a road that goes to Mombasa. Then you say it needs to be in a building that looks
just
like
500 meters from Panari.
500 meters for Panari. Yeah. So when you give those specifications, it all points us to Spice FM head office. Yeah. So that's the issue. So then all these other people do not qualify. I was seeing where even in terms of a tablet, they're saying a tablet has to be like 33 millimeters. And all the other tablets are 30 millimeters. So it means
there's already pre-chosen.
there's already one company only that can
Allow me to
produce
just
that.
speak into this one here. When you're dealing with medical research and your pharmaceutical products, unfortunately, if there's a protocol that specifies, say, a certain drug, they even mention it by name, you can't deviate from it.
Yes.
And if that drug has the specifications you speak of, again, you can't deviate from it. Because if you deviate, it's a protocol deviation, and you're going to shut down that study.
Yes.
So in that specific instance, it is absolutely necessary.
Yes.
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 So, I mean, you said at the beginning of this, when this appointment was given to you, that the president said, be careful because you're going to a place of cartels.
Yes.
He may have been onto something. Looking at some of the labels that Kemsa has received over the last, odd 3 to 5 years, Kemsa is one of the most corrupt agencies in the country, etc., etc. I don't agree with that because I don't think Kemsa as an entity is corrupt. Corruption is practiced by people, individuals, and one would also assume that at this point there are folks, these cartels that we speak about, frothing at the mouth, waiting for an opportunity that will present itself for them to do this thing over and over again. The loopholes that you speak of, where people have been able to fix themselves into, some would think that they will still be able to do it again. I mean, there's a list of what many would call the scandals that have taken place, and then when it comes to something as fundamental and as necessary as healthcare and treatment for the country's distributor of these things to all outlets within the nation, then it is very, very sensitive. Needless to say, there is a hard task that is before you to rid the stain of the image that is already there, and then to make sure that this agency then runs in the way in which it ought to run, without all of this drama and scandal that has previously happened. Do you think it is necessary then to go through personnel? I mean, there's some folks who've been working remotely. They know that there are those who are in the office. There's been a removal of so many. Do you think that it then needs to be a personnel issue when it comes to sorting out some of these problems?
Yes, actually, I would say first, Kemsa in itself is susceptible to all these issues because it's a procurement company. You see, it's for procuring, warehousing, distribution. Those are the functions of Kemsa. And of course, every time there is procurement, then there are interests. And I would say first, the 70% of the issues at Kemsa when we came in were HR issues. And we got a very good board. The president gave us a board, independence, a team of 4, excellent, with very good backgrounds on that. So when we came in, one of the first things that we did was to say that all the 200 staff who at that point were working from home, to come back to the office. Yeah. And you find that even some of the people working from home were security officers. Yeah.
So really,
and you find that sometimes they also get overtime when they're working from home.
Okay.
So that was the first step. Everybody coming back to the office. Of course, it was chaotic because now these people coming in and they're saying we've been gone for 2 years. Yeah. Others. So already the environment becomes very emotional. Yeah. From there, we called a meeting with all the staff and engage them, just telling them, yeah, we are new, we know your issues and we want to solve your issues. Then the management, there were 2 sets of management. Half of the managers were at home. Yeah, you find even the HR manager is at home, working from home. But then there's another manager who's been brought to sit in for them. Yeah. So what we did is all the ones who had been seconded to Kemsa, we released them immediately. Yeah. So that now the ones who are sitting at home can come back and take over the stations. But these are stations that they've been gone away from for about 2 years.
Yeah.
So even someone coming in and saying, yes, I'm the finance person, but I need first to check who's the signature to the banks because I've not been here for those 2 years. But he's a substantive, getting full salary for those 2 years. Yeah. So what the issue of HR, the demoralized and all that. That's why now at this point, now we are looking at the needs assessment of the institution, because clearly there are people who are recruited. We had double staffing, even if it's not double, at least 200-300 people who don't necessarily need to be at Kemsa. Yeah. So that's why one of the things I've said is, or the board resolved, is that the staff who we do not require and are on contract will not get their contracts renewed end of this month. Okay. It's painful, but it's a decision that have to be made.
How many people are we talking about?
Probably about 200.
About 200 who've been working on contract.
Contract, we are talking about double that. About 450.
About 450.
Yeah.
But then there's those who've been seconded from elsewhere.
Yes.
Who've been coming to report to Kemsa on
those
a daily
we've already
basis.
sent them back.
Those ones have gone back.
Yes.
And many who are working from home are now coming back to the office.
Everybody.
But then, during that period, Bwana Chairman, you had an organization that was paying all those people working from home, not necessarily being efficient or productive. And then the same organization is paying these other people who've been seconded to it. And the same organization has people on contract.
Yes.
Is the board going to review these decisions and take necessary action? Or recommend necessary action? Or at least invite the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to come in and look into that? Because that's a lot of money wasted. That's a lot of human resource and human capital wasted.
Let's say that the people who worked from home overstayed that, yeah, because they should have, even if it was for people to go out for investigations to be carried out, 2 years is too long. And in particular, when you are still need that function carried out, meaning that you hire additional people, yeah, and the people at home are getting full salaries. I think it was a complete waste of public resources and Kemsa money. But I think for us, we need to be forward-looking because if we look back on everything around Kemsa, we'll be stuck there for a very long time. Yeah, the issues, there are issues that we have to look back. The issues of procurement, where we know that individuals just got free money, delivering nothing, but were paid.
But those two are interconnected, Bwana Chairman.
They're interconnected.
The reason why these people are suspended is so that investigations can be conducted into decision-making around these procurement matters.
Yes.
Now, do you have a report of the investigations that are conducted in those 2 years when all these workers were at home? And what do the reports say? Are there people who need to go to court?
I don't think there was much that was being done.
There was no investigation.
No. There wasn't much of investigations that were done. You know,
but
the COVID.
We were told many things. The EACC said it's conducting
investigations. The COVID billionaires, as we all remember, were government people. They were linked to government. So there was really nothing that was going to be done to them at that point. Yeah. And so all those investigations, as we remember, within 2-3 weeks of that, we were just told everything quietened out. People were sent home, innocent people. They went home. The ones who were enjoying their billions continued enjoying state protection to enjoy their billions, and that matter rested. Yeah.
Are you reviving
it? Actually, the reason why nobody cared to bring these people back is they just felt that everything is we've established
everything has quieted down.
Yes.
So will you revive those things? Because we still have an issue. Kemsa just 2-3 years ago lost billions of shillings. That's what we were told.
Yes.
We'd like investigations to tell us whether that's true. Kemsa, within those 2 or 3 years, had staff who were colluding with rogue people to fleece the organization. As a board that's coming to clean the mess.
Yeah. You know what happened is that the 3 billion, 4 billion that was lost at Kemsa was, and as you will be told, was not lost through non-delivery or poor procurement. That's what you'll be told. Because it was an emergency period, the procurement was done. Where the money was lost was that the items that were procured at very high prices. Yeah. But then, by the time Kemsa is selling them, they're selling them at market prices or below market prices. And then there were also procured too many items that were unnecessary. Right now, they're still lying in the warehouses at Kemsa. Yeah. So items that were procured, say, for 3 billion or 2 billion are lying there, but their market price is half or less. But also, there's no market. Where do you take body bags? There's no place. Even Shakahol only needed 500. Yeah, and here you have, say, 2 million body bags. So it's items that were procured unnecessarily. Yeah. So even if you start investigating, yeah, the person will say, yes, the procurement process went through. I delivered. These are the prices. Yes, the fact that the market collapsed. Yeah, WHO started coming to distribute free items, COVID masks. So the ones that were at Kemsa to be sold were lying there, yeah, and they're still there. Yeah. So that the issue then to investigate then isn't as material. Yeah, they managed to beat the system on that.
Let's take a break and then we continue the conversation shortly. Irongo Nyakera is the chairman of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority. The board has met, and yesterday the board made several pronouncements, and what they're saying is reforming the institution and taking it forward, taking matters on procurement. There's some decisions that were made, matters on human resource, matters on digitization, and what we want to understand from him today is what this new board is doing to correct the image of Kemsa. It's 8:30. Kenya's biggest conversation, reminding you to file your tax returns today if you haven't. You have until the end of June. Please just go to your KRA portal. You know how to log on. Just do it. kra.go.ke. Log on and file your returns. If you are employed, formally ask your employer for the P9 form. Use it to file your returns. If you're not employed and you just like to file nil returns, just go ahead and do so. If you're an international person or an organization running a business in the country, file your returns. If you're a Kenyan living abroad, also you're required to file your returns.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Bro, the game is about to start. Let's go. Yeah. Just give me a minute, man. Malize. What's up? Who are you chatting with? I'm just filing my returns, then we bounce. Because I hope you remember the deadline is June 30th. The game will start, banner. Where it doesn't take time. And yep, I'm done. That was fast. Show me how you've done yours, because I don't want to pay any penalty. Just log into itax.kra.go.ke and file your returns. And if you don't know how to, just go to KRA's YouTube page and watch a tutorial. It's that easy. Allah, filing returns is easier than cooking. Easy peasy, say.
Kenya Revenue Authority reminds all PIN holders to file their 2022 tax returns on or before 30th of June 2023. For assistance, call 0711 099 999 or email callcenter@kra.go.ke. You can also visit any of the KRA service centers or any Huduma center countrywide. Kenya Revenue Authority. Tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee.
All right, cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 23 and lows of 13. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 14 in Nakuru. And we'll see highs of 23 and lows of 14 in Nyeri. Eldoret, sunny with highs of 25 and lows of 13. And mostly sunny in Mombasa, highs of 29 and lows of 23. In Malindi, highs of 29 and lows of 25. Mostly sunny through today. And in Kisumu, sunny through today, highs of 28 and lows of 18. It'll be sunny in Kakamega as well, highs of 28 and lows of 15, while Kampala is mostly cloudy. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 18. 30 will be the high in a sunny Dar es Salaam, coming down to lows of 23, and it's 9 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg with highs of 20 and lows of 9. Mostly cloudy, highs of 30 and lows of 26 in Lagos, and highs of 31 and lows of 23 in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so busy in the CBD. We're still looking at traffic coming off of Kiambu Road and parts of the Thika Superhighway, so that's normal right about now. Busy hive of activity coming off Limuru Road and United Nations Avenue down towards Gigiri into the city. It's not so bad on James Gishuru at this point. We're still seeing some movement coming off of Naivasha Road, touching on Riara and then on to James Gishuru and Gitanga. It's busy on Gong Road as well as getting into the CBD on the other side of things coming off of Landis. So that's still busy now. We're still in traffic hour. Let's see how that opens up closer to 9. And let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continues with the chairman of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, Kemsa, Irungu Nyakera, who's our guest this morning, talking about what the new board is doing to correct the image of Kemsa. You have been appointed as a board. The board is supposed to be in charge or oversighting the management. You have not picked the management, not even the CEO. Do you actually have control of this institution?
Actually, we do. Because under the Kemsa Act, the board is actually the overall authority of the organization. It's the one that gives authority to the CEO to execute his mandate. So that's why the board, we have the committees on HR, on audit, on finance, governance, and also on technical, which is we are a supply chain company. Then that is able to, those committees are able to meet and engage the CEO and management where they need to understand anything that is happening. And should the board find that there is any reason to sanction management, or they can. So the board has all those powers. What has happened over time, and in Kenya in particular, is that the board that are picked for organizations sometimes are individuals who are not necessarily, who are being gifted for
political rewards.
So they don't necessarily have the technical know-how on the issues, and probably not even as interested. So all they want is the stipends that are given. So then you find that the CEO is able to keep feeding them these small stipends, and they allow him then to walk away with murder. And the CEO essentially runs the board. Unfortunately for Kemsa, we have a board that is not in that caliber. On my end, to be honest, I will not be given a stipend or 20,000-30,000 shillings to overlook anything that is happening. Even 1 million or 2 or 10 won't be enough. And the other members as well. We have like one of them she's a former MD of Meds. She's called Jane Masiga. She was the CEO of Meds. Meds essentially runs like Kemsa. Is a Kemsa. That operates even for USAID. The other one is called Omolo. He's the fellow of CPA. He's in ISPAC. The other one is called Jane Batia. She's an advocate, very highly regarded. And then we have another one who's called Bet, and he's also been in various boards and is a businessman, and it's been done very well. So all I'm saying is the board, if a board stands firm, on issues that they want, if it's a transformation agenda that like the one that we have, then management will have to follow.
Respectfully, Bwana Chairman, like you said, it's Kenya, okay? There's the politics that runs things in all state corporations and such other institutions. So the CEO is a political appointee who has come to join the board who are political appointees. Then there is who runs the show at either Afi House, the Ministry of Health, and then that's where also you heard that cartels have a say. If cartels have a sway with the Ministry of Health, then the Ministry of Health runs the show at Kemsa. It doesn't matter what you board are saying. The CEO, who knows who the appointing authority is, will basically just run the board again or ignore the board.
I think on 14th of March, you were there with the president. I think I saw you.
Yes.
And you asked him the question of Kemsa. And the president said, leave that to me. So he said, I will change Kemsa with whatever it takes. He was very passionate and deliberate about it. Anybody who comes, who goes against the interest of the president on this will actually not have any political, will not be coming in from any political angle. The president, I'm telling you, when he called me, he told me, even you, if you go to bed with the cartels, please know that you do not call me. As you're being taken to court. It's one way, you're alone. So essentially, on the issue of Kemsa, because he understands that without Kemsa, the whole UHC does not work. The commodities are provided by Kemsa. The counties, when you hear people saying that counties have no drugs, those are supplied by Kemsa. So if Kemsa is not there, the counties again won't have the drugs. So essentially the whole thing collapses.
When it comes to the president, and yes, the president says this, the president may mean it. When he says, I need Kemsa to work, I need Kemsa to deliver. He's not the only president who's done this. Just a couple of months earlier, his predecessor did exactly the same thing. The president took action. The president removed an entire board of Kemsa, brought in a new board of Kemsa, and he said, you know what, we've got to clean the mess in this institution. In fact, I want a report on Kemsa on my desk within, I don't know, he gave how many weeks. The president of the Republic of Kenya.
Lo and behold.
He spoke about Kemsa. He said he cannot allow Kemsa to be run the way it was being run. Lo and behold.
Do you think
so what trust do we have now? Man, what confidence, not trust, what confidence can we draw from these latest presidential pronouncements?
I think it's because even the people around the president know that he's very serious about healthcare. Actually, I can tell you I've been there 3 weeks as of yesterday, and I have not received any single instruction from anyone, including the president or the people around him, on how or what to do running Kemsa. They're following. Yesterday I got a call. I was told, we need to have a meeting just for a debrief, which we'll have today. But that's it. There's nothing, there's someone coming for a tender, there's someone who needs to be hired or whatever. Nothing.
Do not worry, it will come.
No, but I'm saying the point is, usually they come in the first few days. So trust me also, it's good that they have
it. It's been 3 weeks
It's been 3 weeks. So even if they do, they will come much later when we've established ourselves. And also the fact that the president himself is the one who appointed me, then it means that, and nobody will tell me I spoke to the president and to give you the job, because nobody did. He gave me that job himself.
If you hadn't been a PS, I would argue with you. But when you're a PS, especially the ministry you're in,
yes,
that is a living nightmare, landmine. Now, you seem to have survived it, so I could argue that you know your way around these issues. However, the problems around Kemsa, as Ndu aptly put it, is not the institution, it's people. And it's not at the people in Kemsa. No. It's just people. Because of what Kemsa does, it will always be in the eye of the storm.
Yes.
Not just within the parent ministry, but anybody who has connections and wants to make money, because Kemsa is not going to stop procuring.
It won't.
And what Kemsa procures is necessary. It is needed. There's no day you're going to say, today we don't need this, today we don't need the other. It is a continuum. So the problems that Kemsa has had in the past, right now one doesn't hear of them. But let me just say this. You have your work cut out for you. Now let me ask you my question. Ndugu Nyakwera, do you think that the board you have will support you in ensuring that Kemsa does what it's mandated to do?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, I think I believe we have a very good board. A board that is committed to getting Kemsa to where it ought to be.
Okay.
The previous board lasted 3 months.
All right. They were Kenyans. This board of yours are also Kenyans.
Yes.
Are they immune to receiving money?
I can't speak for them on that because I wouldn't.
I know. It's actually a very unfair question, but it's an unfair question. I agree it's an unfair question. But the reason why I ask is people start with the noblest of intentions in these matters.
Yes.
And then somewhere along the line, you actually want to ask. You see, the president appointed you. I am guided by history here. When Mwai Kibaki came in, we are told that it marked the beginning of something that the world looked at and marveled and said, these Kenyans, there are hardly any people on this planet or this globe who are as hopeful as these Kenyans. The goodwill that government had was enormous. And no one doubts that President Kibaki was not going to tolerate any corruption in his government. Again, lo and behold, one of the biggest scandals that this country ever witnessed happened. It didn't take 10 years. What I'm saying is the president will mean well, but there's the human element that always seeks self-gratification in matters that benefit them directly. And you as chairman could become victim to these things because beyond you, beyond the president, there are other people.
You see, there's a very strong message that the president sent. One, after only 3 months of having a board at Kemsa, he fired it and got a new board. And he said he will do it anywhere. Yeah. So everybody is now aware of that. So in all their dealings, anybody's dealings, they are very careful because should something come up, they know that they will not be spared and it will be swift. Yeah. And you see, you are appointed for a term of 3 years. Yeah. And those 3 years, if you can move slowly, yeah, you will be there for those 3 years. You will see some change and probably you'll also benefit individually over that period of 3 years and probably even get a reappointment. But if you go the other direction, yeah, then you are certain that you won't last the 3 years. And even if you do, you certainly won't get a reappointment. So I think I'm hoping that that's what the board that I'm with is also thinking, because I'm looking at this Kemsa itself and feeling that, and I know that it's something, the role that we are playing is beyond just personal gratification.
Sure.
It's about serving 52 million Kenyans across the country. We have 8,700 facilities that we deliver drugs to every 3 months. Yeah. So if we are unable, if we allow just our personal interest to come in between that, then it'll be unfortunate, and you really don't have a reason to be in that board, or even I wouldn't have a reason to be in that board if that's what I'm going for.
So there's the involvement of the international, bodies with Kemsa,
yes,
especially when it comes to, the United States Development Agency, USAID. There's also the Global Fund when it comes to malaria, HIV, and then of course USAID with infrastructure for blood donorship and things like that. We've not done very well in that relationship. We've somehow managed to muck that up. So the question is then, what are the plans to make sure that, contracts or procurement guidelines, standards that have been agreed upon by both bodies then will be kept, and then that relationship can be mended? Because it's some vital stuff that they're doing. We're talking about, from a donor point of view, they've filled some really, big holes when it's come to HIV/AIDS, especially malaria, which is still the number one killer. But they're not very happy right now, isn't it? So how will that now be sorted out as, Kemsa gets this new lease of life?
Yeah, a lot of our stakeholders are not happy. Yeah, so both the local, of course, the governors, the order fill rates are low. We're only filling about 54% of whatever they come to us. The donors, International Global Fund, was unhappy, but although they were not fully unhappy with Kemsa. You see, Kemsa is a good punching bag. Yeah? So anyone who feels that something is coming can always push Kemsa to be the one to be hit. But then they are aware that it's not necessarily Kemsa that played that role fully. But USAID was a big one. USAID. But we have what we call the implementation letter. That where they gave us a list, a letter with a list of deliverables from our end that we need to achieve for them to come back to Kemsa. At the moment, they're still operating under Kemsa, but with an agency with the meds. So we expect by November for USAID to start coming in to Kemsa. Some of the things that you saw us make pronouncements on yesterday were to also allow for us to meet those set targets from USAID. One is the ERP. Currently Kemsa has two ERPs, two systems. One operates the warehouse, the other one operates the enterprise, but they don't talk to each other. Yeah, so someone sitting in finance cannot know how much stock there is. It is sometimes it's not coincidence. Yeah,
it's such a diplomatic way of putting it. So not cannot talk, will not talk.
Yes, they will not talk. Yes. Yeah. So now we are putting together. Within the next 3 months, or later 6 months, we'll have started rolling out a new ERP. That then even goes all the way to the counties. We've been just pushing drugs to counties, but we want to pull from counties. We want to know which are the fast moving drugs in Tana River, which are the fast moving drugs in Wajir. So we stock for them so that they will never have stockouts for them. Our target is to achieve 90% fill rates and the turnaround time
for what period of time?
Within the next 3 months.
Okay.
Within the next 3 months. And we were there before. About 3 years ago, they were able to do about 90%. Last year, they were doing about 70%. So we are able to go back to about 90%. Yeah. So then the turnaround time, so that the hospitals right now, the turnaround time is about 17 days, but we can bring it down to about 10 days. Yeah, with the order. So there's a lot that we need to do. Our stakeholders, as you mentioned, even this week, next week, we'll be meeting with them, the USAID, Global Fund, and all the others, because they've been supporting us in a big way. And actually, I was surprised that the donor community in Toronto gives about 51 billion for HIV alone. annually.
Every year.
Every year. Yeah. So that's a huge commitment from them. Yeah. And that's why for us, we want to build up on that relationship and ensure that we're seeing even new partners coming. Like there's one called Max Foundation, which is giving about 6 billion a year on oncology mostly for the referral hospitals, for the large referral hospitals. So if we can be able to strengthen our brand and our image and through first the introspection internally to build on what we'll look at the areas we've failed and of course then project that outside, then we're actually able to attract a lot more to help build the Kemsa that we all deserve.
Irongo, you are the party leader of Farmers Party. Yes. So one of the principles of Kenya Kwanza. In the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, Kemsa features prominently, like you said, as a driver of universal health coverage. One of the proposals that was there in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto was how to use Kemsa and others in liberalizing the medical supplies side, using OTS, just like it happens in the oil marketing sector. So these are the needs of all the hospitals in Kenya. Place them here, let Kemsa and others bid for the supply to all these hospitals. Is Kemsa preparing for that? And what would that mean if actually now Kemsa started facing direct competition in supply of medical commodities and equipment?
Actually, Kemsa operated properly will always have cheaper drugs and everything than any other private operator. There are certain tax benefits that it enjoys. There is economies of scale in huge procurements and also the distribution platform. Currently, as you said, we're able to deliver to 8,700 facilities. Others, it's very hard for anyone else to be able to do that. Meds are actually using the Kemsa distributors for the last mile. So I think for us, the way the law currently is, and I am guessing it won't really be changed, is that the counties approach Kemsa, and whatever Kemsa does not have, then the counties can approach the private sector, private players. So what we're saying is that we want to build on that to make it 90%, that the counties will always get 90% of what their needs are. And of this 90% is to guarantee the county, one, on quality, because for us on quality assurance is huge. We're actually putting up the lab, an additional lab facility to ensure that the quality of all the products that we get is very high standard. But secondly, we provide counties with credit facilities, because counties give us, take the drugs, and then once they are paid by the government, then they're able to pay us, which again, private sector, you might find that they'll have a struggle with that. And then finally is just in terms of the prices. What we are setting up a market research department within the procurement, and that's one of the things that we want to institute within the coming months, that will be able to look at the drugs that we are supplying, and to ensure that at all times our prices are either market or below market for us to be delivering to the counties to give them that benefit.
Are you saying that these clawback on that promise for OTS?
You see, I think
like a slowdown, because that's the campaign promise, that you're going to have an open tender system.
At the end of the day,
our health.
At the end of the day, the question is the benefits that come with whatever we aspire. Because if Kemsa is not able to deliver cheaper prices, is not able to provide guaranteed quality proper, and then there will be need for those private players to be able to come in. But if we are able to,
if you're
competitive and you're able to do it in time, and the quality is there, and you have the proper distribution platform, then it means that you're saving the nation money, and hence there would be any need for that.
There was an issue with counties previously, and it probably still is an issue now, in terms of distribution to counties and then having a backlog in terms of payment. Counties are in a bit of a pickle at the moment, and they've been for some time. And that means, being able to pay what they owe has been difficult, of course, because of money coming from the treasury that at this point, unfortunately, is non-existent. How would then you be able to battle? Because the counties need the supplies at their level. Dispensary, referral, whatever level hospital. They don't have money sometimes to be able to pay Kemsa.
Yeah.
What happens and how would you deal with that?
Yeah, I think that's actually our biggest problem right now, because currently counties owe us about 3 billion shillings. But we've started seeing them, I think, as the confidence builds. Yeah, like last month, May, they paid us 1 billion shillings. Yeah, so it means as the confidence grows in Kemsa, then the counties will start paying, because they're usually paid. Actually, even in their IBs, the instructions they send to the controller of budget, Kemsa is always there. But once money comes to their banks, they don't pay Kemsa. Yeah. So also it's an arrangement which we will be meeting with the chair of governing council, the governors this week or next week, just to see how they can help us, just so that counties can make the payments.
Yeah.
Once they pay us, we'll be able to do that. Also, we'll be talking. We are working with our ministry so that we can be recapitalized from the COVID losses. Of course, that ate into Kemsa's capital. That money is what we were able to now buy in advance and lend to counties essentially. But now without that money, we'll struggle on that. So it's an area recapitalization. We have to be recapitalized. Counties have to pay. The other debtors also have to pay for us now to be in a good financial position to be able to extend the same to the counties. But it's all about confidence. If people and counties and everybody else within the system feel, even the National Treasury, if they feel that Kemsa will put money and all of it will be eaten, nobody will put money. But so now if...
Your biggest clients are the counties?
Yes, counties, 90%.
And they owe you a hell of a lot of money?
3 billion.
There's a plan to get this money?
Yes. So far, actually, every governor I meet, I bump into, usually is telling me, I'll pay you next week. So there's one who told me they paid me, but still the amount he told me, so that I was told he paid half. So I'll look for him to pay the other half. Yeah. So
you're becoming a debt collector as well. Chairman, debt collector, plus everything. As we conclude, Irungu, in just 30 seconds, what the actions that you took yesterday in terms of procurement, it's a legal minefield. When you say that you have cancelled all pre-qualification, you're cancelling contracts that are already there, how exactly are you doing this without ending up in court and costing us money?
You know, there's a legal precedence in a lot of these institutions that have come in and have done the same, where you feel that whatever has been procured, there's no value for money. There's a contract, for example, that we were paying 2.5 million a month for nothing to be done, and it is there. There's another one that where last year the contract was 12 million, but now the new one they brought for the to be signed is for 26 million. So all those contracts are there, and that's why we are saying we were not party to those contracts. We cannot oversee them going through. We need a fresh, clean. We are changing the procurement department, enhancing it, capacity building. So we have to, and that's why we feel with a new team, let's get new structures, new systems, new partners, and we rid of the corruption.
Okay. Irungu Nyakera, chairman of Kemsa, has been our guest. Keep it here for more conversations. It's 9 a.m.
Good morning, this is Newsweb Dennis Aseto. The First Lady Rachel Ruto this morning cycled to Gigiri for the United Nations Habitat Assembly from State House. Through her Mama Cycling initiative, the First Lady is aimed at promoting eco-friendly transport for clean cities, which is a core agenda for the Global Alliance of Cities for Its Safety. Mama Cycling ride from State House to Gigiri for UN Habitat. Now she is set to host the First Lady's Roundtable during the second UN Habitat Assembly, where she will share her vision for a more sustainable and inclusive future. For First Lady Rachel Ruto and other influential voices are expected to discuss how to build resilient, equitable and thriving communities at the Assembly. Now, Ultimate, a Swiss biological agricultural product manufacturer, has set up office in Kenya as it seeks to spread into the region with its wide assortment of natural solutions to rejuvenate soils in a regenerative manner and manage pests and diseases with a range of biological tested solutions. The company has set up a demonstration farm in Naivasha, Kenya, where it is producing beneficial insects as well as growing a wide range of crops to demonstrate how nature can be harnessed to improve farm productivity for both small and large-scale growers. The Naivasha facility is breeding center for beneficial insects. The main insect currently produced en masse is the Phytocilias mite that are harvested daily for introduction in farms across Kenya to combat the destructive red spider mite, especially in flowers. And preparations have commenced for this year's Turkana Tourism and Cultural Festival, popularly known as the Bonglore, scheduled to take place in August 2023 at Enkale's Cultural Center in Lodwar. The festival aims to attract businessmen seeking opportunities to capitalize on the event, as well as artists, government officials, and festival goers looking to immerse themselves in the cultural celebrations. County Secretary Peter Eripete presided over the inaugural planning meeting, emphasizing that this was a county event involving all departments, with tourism and culture department assuming the crucial coordination role. Eripete stressed the need for early planning, commencing 2 months ahead of the festival to allow sufficient time for invited guests and participating cultural teams to adequately prepare. Now, a pastor in Embu County has been charged with raping a member of his congregation. Benson Maniki Njuki of Full Gospel Church, Karurina, was charged with raping a 22-year-old woman on June 1st at Karurina village in Embu West. And former Trans Nzoia County Assembly staff staged peaceful demonstrations of unpaid gratuity for the period they served in the county government. The former staff demonstrated at the assembly demanding for their dues, accusing the leadership of a scheme to swindle their funds. Led by Paul Kidaro, the workers said that it is an insult by the county assembly leadership to pay them the little money while paying former AMCAs their full amount. They said they will stage the sit-in to ensure they are paid the 400,000 shillings owed by the county assembly, or they file a case in court to challenge the payment. The workers' efforts to be addressed by the assembly speaker are futile as they close down the premise, forcing them to stage their demos on the gates. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has described the 3-train crash in Odisha Balasore district as a painful incident, and the government will leave no stone unturned for the treatment of those injured. He also assured that those found guilty in the incident will be punished severely. Taking to Twitter, Modi said the government stands committed to providing all possible assistance to those affected. Modi arrived in the Fakir Mohan Hospital, Balasore, after reviewing the situation at the site of the incident, in which at least 288 people were killed and over 800 others injured. And oil prices have risen after Saudi Arabia said it would make cuts of 1 million barrels per day in July. The members of OPEC Plus, a group of oil-producing countries, also agreed to continued cuts in production in an attempt to show up flagging prices. OPEC Plus accounts for around 40% of the world's crude oil, and its decisions can have a major impact on oil prices. OPEC Plus said production targets would drop by a further 1.4 million barrels per day from 2024. The 7-hour-long meeting of the Royal Rich Nations came against a backdrop of falling energy prices. Oil prices soared when Russia invaded Ukraine last year, but are now back at levels seen before the conflict began. This is News. I'm Dennis Asato. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Traffic coming onto Waiaki Way this morning, and it's coming in from James Gishore, Oloi Tok Tok, all of these other roads, and making it quite busy. But some folks are using the Red Hill Link Road, and some traffic spilling over there, but not too bad. On the Thika Superhighway, traffic still continues just past Survey, and then you get onto Muranga Road, and you'll be fine. We're seeing some traffic coming in from Limuru Road. It's heavy coming in from Whispers. Also looking at coming in from United Nations Avenue, and as well as Village Market. So that continues there. We're also looking at traffic then into the CBD coming off Langata Road. a little bit coming off of Uhuru Highway here and there. We should be able to handle it. Out of traffic hour in no time. Let's talk before then on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Keep things moving this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning and welcome to the final hour of the Situation Room this morning. Thank you very much for keeping it locked from 6 a.m. all the way to the end of the show every weekday morning, Monday to Friday. Sarit Center is turning 40 this year.
Can you imagine?
40 years.
4 decades of fantastic shopping, and it's been an experience getting into Sarit Center for the last 40 years, from when they started till today, when they say, come and celebrate with us. And between 1 and 2 every day, come in and shop at any one of the retail outlets within the center. Spend 2,040 shillings. 2,040 shillings would then enter you into a draw where you spin the magic wheel and you could land on a car, you could land on a cruise, you could land on shopping vouchers. Many things up for grabs over this period as Sarit is celebrating. Here at Spice FM, we're saying, talk to us on our socials, Spice FM KE on YouTube and Facebook. Tell us what you would spend 2,040 shillings on at Sarit, and you could win a hamper today. Happy birthday, Sarit.
Like that.
Yes.
We'll be rewarding a winner later on in this hour. We have a guest who's joining us in the studio, the Deputy Leader of the Minority in the National Assembly. He is the MP for Kathiani constituency. His name is the Honorable Robert Mboi. He's our guest. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning, Latif.
Karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you for hosting me.
You finally occupied the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Oh, I didn't know it was hot. I'm finding it warm.
It's just warm, eh?
Yeah.
Very good. That's how it's intended to be. We just say hot, but it is relative. There are people who can handle the heat more than others.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Kabisa.
Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Yeah, asante. Yeah.
This man called C.T. Muga has the day's proverb, and this week's proverbs are from
the country of Malawi, whose president is called Dr. Lazarus Chikwera.
Yeah.
Yes. And the vice president is called Saulos Chilima.
Saulos Chilima.
Yes. A deer tethered with a golden chain can escape to the forest to eat grass.
A deer tethered with a golden chain can escape to the forest to eat grass.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Mboi, what do you call a deer in Kikamba?
No, I'm not very good. We don't have deers now, so
what is
that be historical?
What do you call swara?
Swara. No. Maybe if you ask me about a goat or a cow.
Of course, a goat you would know. What do you call a goat in Kikamba? Listen to this.
Mboi. But Latif, I could have passed off. I would have given a name that you don't know, and you would have accepted it.
So.
But I know there are people from Kathiani listening.
Okay. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Mheshimiwa, as a leader of a minority in the National Assembly, you're in the leadership of Parliament in this country, okay?
Yes.
So you're in the leadership of an institution that is an arm of government. So you are not a small person here, you are a big person. Parliament, according to the headline today in the Standard, is under siege. And let me read. Parliament resumes today to a season that will test their nerves. The executive has bullishly asserted that MPs will do as they say, while Wananchi feel the MPs can rescue them from squalor by legislating against some government wishes. Will government whim prevail? Of course, here, the whole focus is on the finance bill and the preparation of the budget for the next financial year. And the feeling is that members of parliament are just going to be told what to do by forces from outside parliament and fail in the execution of their mandate to represent the people on matters of taxation. What do you say to that?
Latif, I think it may not be exactly what is in that headline. Of course, there's the attempt by the executive to muzzle and bulldoze and bully Parliament. But the reality is that in 2018, there was a finance bill that also was contested. And that was when the former president was trying to introduce an 8% VAT on petroleum products. This finance bill is much worse than that one, because not only is he doubling the VAT, he's also doing a raft of other tax measures that are completely unacceptable to most of our people. So I think if when we had that finance bill in 2018, many members of the National Assembly opposed it. In fact, members who are belonging to the then ruling party Jubilee, who are expected to, just support blindly. And I think I want to imagine that even within this period, we may have quite a number of members from the Kenya Kwanza side that will see reason and vote with their conscience and vote for the best thing, for the sake of the country, not for the sake of the executive. In fact, Latif, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and Article 95 spells out the roles of a member of parliament. And one of them is to represent the people. And when you represent the wishes of a people, then that means that you have to do what is in their best interest. And at the same time, one of the other responsibilities members of parliament have is to oversight the executive. So our only connection with the executive is to oversight them, to make sure that the money that is given to them is spent prudently. So for any member to listen to the voice of the executive on how they will vote, in how there was, how they will, collect more money from suffering Kenyans would, in my opinion, be totally unacceptable. But of course, there are those sycophants that, you never miss out a few. But I want to imagine that majority of members would likely vote their conscience. But you heard the president himself, he's threatened members. I mean, it was out there. I mean, if we listen to his tone of voice, when he said he also wants to see those that are opposed to providing jobs, and I'm wondering which member of parliament would be opposed to providing jobs. We are only opposed to increasing taxation on Kenyans who are already highly taxed, and at a period when the economy is doing badly and the cost of living is almost unbearable. So I think he's mixing issues and, sugarcoating words so that he makes members who oppose this bill look like they're enemies of the people. Yeah, that's really the position.
All of this, Mweshima, even as we talk about it today, all of this from today seems to rest now on the shoulders of Parliament, of the National Assembly. And to say that the decision that will be taken moving forward, then forever we will say, doesn't matter what it is, forever we will say, well, it was Parliament that decided, and that's why we are here. Whether it is finance bill no, and then it has to all come, reconstructed, or finance bill yes, go as it is. It will all be on the shoulders of Parliament. Threats and other proclamations notwithstanding, is Parliament cognizant of that responsibility that rests on their shoulders when it comes to something like this? It's finance bill today, it will be another bill tomorrow, it will be another piece of legislation the day after that. Cognizant of the responsibility heavy that rests on its shoulders to move along things like this.
I think your comment says it all, because when people vie for elective office and spend time out there with the public, one of the things that they promise people that elect them is that they will make life better for them. And making life better for the people means consultation with the people to know what is good for them. And then you go and pass legislation or defend their position. Now, I know that a lot of members of National Assembly are up to the task. I am convinced that despite the threats and all that, a lot of members will stand up to be counted. And you know, we are receiving, and I'll tell you this, it's happening already. We are receiving petitions and messages from the general public. People we don't know, people not from necessarily your constituency. And they're telling us, look, we are watching how you will vote.
We're also watching.
Yes, we are watching how you will vote. And yes, you've been told by the executive that they are watching you, so are we. You know, so we will watch you. We will make sure that if you vote against our wishes, then we'll find a way to deal with you. And let me tell you, the most interesting thing is that in another 4.5 years, or just after 4 years, we'll be having another election. Chances are very high that most of these members want to be re-elected or maybe move on to another office, but elective office. And the people that will be voting are the same people that are telling them, do not dare to vote in support of a bill that is going to, you know, impose higher taxes on us at this current situation. Because, you know, the main issue is that we are going through a very difficult economic time. There could be periods of, you know, when the economy is doing well, that even a little bit of an increase in taxation may not hurt anyone or may not hurt people much. But this current situation is really, really nasty. So I want to imagine that because the public is what puts you in office, that members are also careful when they are voting. And I'll tell you this, you know, if you vote in support of the president today, in 4 years' time, the president will not be able to make you be re-elected. Whether he likes you or not, the public will be the ones that make that decision. And you've seen people vying for presidential office. They walk around with you and they realize that you are very unpopular on the ground, and they will pick the next best alternative and work with them. So members need to know. And if you lose your election, the person who wins the presidential seat will not remember your phone number. They'll block you instantly because you'll be trying to call them around asking for a position of CAS or some other parastate or head. And you become a burden.
So what trumps the other? Because here we are, that obviously there is the executive saying, this is what I want you to do. There is the electorate saying, this is what I want you to do. What trumps the other, as opposed to then being able to legislate or represent with responsibility of conscience?
I think.
Or are you going to do it because, okay, well, let me vote this way because if I don't, I will not be elected come 2027. Or let me vote this way because I don't want to be in the bad books of the executive. Or let me actually, in my position, do what is right, what I am supposed to do. So it really doesn't matter what side you fall on. If you're doing the right thing, that should trump everything else. So where are people?
I'll say two things. One, I think the first thing is that you have to vote with your conscience. Do what you think is right, what you think is to the best interest of the people that you're representing, because you don't represent yourself. When I speak, I don't speak for myself. I speak for the people of Kadhiani constituency. And so their opinion matters. And the Constitution, Article 10, talks about public participation. And this is one of the very shocking things. You have seen members of the general public from you know, people have sent over 1,000 memoranda to the Committee on Finance, telling them their opinion. A lot of organizations have actually presented themselves before the committee. A lot of individuals have also gone before the committee to present their views. Over 90% of the presentations have been a total rejection of the finance bill. Now, the least that a member would do is to propose an amendment so that we can tweak those things that people feel are punitive. For anyone to stand on the floor and say, I am supporting, and that's what I've heard very few few individuals say, we will pass it even without a comma. And let me tell you, interestingly, the president himself, when he got a bit of pressure from the people who are operating the digital space, he had proposed some is it 20% or 15% on the digital content monetization. He dropped it. He dropped it. It's so shocking that the president can choose to drop one, but his members cannot choose to drop any. Some of those members are just blindly following whatever he says is okay.
Saying yes to it.
I mean, we need to move Parliament from being a yes man house to a reasoning house. And in fact, the kind of responsibility vested in Parliament, being a third arm of government, the occupants of parliamentary offices need to be very, very careful whichever way they vote. They must be able to vote what they believe in. And I don't think any one of them can honestly tell us that this public participation that was done was an exercise of PR or hot air.
Which public participation?
There was public participation
The
because
finance bill.
The finance
committee.
In front of the finance committee, the memoranda was sent. People presented, organizations presented themselves before the committee, gave their opinion. Individuals went before the committee, gave their opinion. That is what is public participation. But then over and above that, we've gone to our villages, talked to our people. That's also further public participation.
And that is adequate public participation.
I think what happens is that within the law, it's not defined what is adequate. But even if you get 30 people or 100 people, and this was over 1,000 memoranda, I think 1,000 is fairly a good number. If majority of them are rejecting the proposal, then my concern is, does their voice matter? That is what I would ask. Because we don't have monopoly of intelligence just because you are elected, just because you are sitting in office, a plush office at the presidency or a member of parliament. You don't have, a monopoly of intelligence. The public also people have been to school. Listen to them, listen to their opinion, and take into consideration what they say. What I'm finding irritating is that we do public participation, and the public say we do not want, and then you go and say, okay, we've done adequate public participation, but our position is the direct opposite.
Of not listening to the people. Which is where now you come in as a leader of the National Assembly and a deputy minority leader. We are also hearing from the opposition sort of a blanket no to the finance bill. Your leadership of Azimio yesterday, Raila Odinga, said, I have told my MPs to vote against this bill, which is also just sounding as the way the president is saying, vote yes to this bill. Raila says, vote no to the bill. Are there areas that you agree with in this bill? Are there proposed amendments that you have that you're going to take to the floor of the House for this particular bill?
Latif, let me explain to you where the problem is now on the technical part of it. Yes, there could be some parts of the bill that are not punitive and that probably are positive. But the problem with the Kenyan system and our constitution is that if you vote in support of the bill and then you propose amendments, because we can do that on third reading, we can propose amendments and remove even some of those proposed taxes, and then the bill goes to the president. Now, the president has some authority in the constitution, I think Article 115, where he can veto. He can return the bill back to you and say, and return all those things you've removed. And then he makes it your problem to raise 2/3 so that you can overturn. Yes, so you can overturn his veto power. Now that threshold is very high. We tried that even to when we were dealing with the gender rule, and it's difficult to raise 2/3 because there is someone in hospital, there's somebody who has to attend a function somewhere, somebody has to bury a relative, somebody is out on business or out of the country. Okay. So it's not always easy to raise the 2/3, and so the president can easily return the bill the way it is after you've made amendments and passed it, and then if you are unable to overturn his decision, then it passes and becomes law. So for me, what we had proposed is that they withdraw it as it is, and then they redo it now based on what the public have said. Remove the contentious issues, and then now present it to us so that we can pass it. And even if we disagree on a few things and you go later and veto, we will still have a fairly good finance bill.
At least you'll have discussed it.
We will have discussed it.
But have you now, as a minority, presented to them an alternative bill? Have you presented an alternative and said, withdraw that thing of yours, here is something that it would be more palatable, that they can then form a conversation.
Incidentally, Latif, the biggest blunder you can attempt to do is that one, to present a finance bill on behalf of government, because that's a government bill. So they wouldn't even discuss it. I mean, then they would say we are usurping their powers. So for us, what we've already done is we've indicated to them, and the public has indicated to them, the areas of contention. Sort out those 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 issues, and then now present a palatable finance bill. So when we say we are rejecting, it's because even if it has some positives, if we remove the negatives and we pass it, those negatives will be returned by the president himself. It has happened in the past with the former president. So we are a bit concerned about that. And that's why we are saying we are rejecting it in totality.
Yeah.
But our debate will be based on only those contentious issues that obviously there are some totally logical proposals in this finance bill. Totally logical. I mean, this is a bill that is done every year, once a year, every year.
Yeah.
Just immediately after the budget estimates are read. But then I have never seen such a contentious one. I mean, it's like this regime promised heaven on earth, and they are trying to squeeze the last drop out of everyone to see if they can be able to deliver on the promise. And some of those proposals, I mean, they haven't even thought through up to the end. So every day you talk to them, you listen to the version of what will happen, you realize they don't even have all the facts on the table. The housing bill, for example, up to now, they cannot be able to explain to you exactly how it will work. So they've told you to sign a blank check, and then later on, they will come up with regulations
on how this
thing will work. You don't know who will qualify, how they'll qualify, when they'll get the houses, whether they'll get the houses. I mean, it's a complete blank check. You're being told, just sign so that we start collecting money, but then later on we'll tell you who qualifies. How do you pass a bill telling us that everyone contributes, but there are some people that will qualify, will give them houses, they'll buy houses. Some will not qualify, will not give them houses, will return their money after some time. But you don't know who is it who will not qualify. And if some people won't qualify, tell us who won't qualify and why should they be contributing to the fund in the first place. So I mean, it's totally, it's got too many.
It's convoluted. Issues. There's something that you've said, Mheshimiwa, and I'd like you to clarify. You're saying that it is not practical for the minority side of the National Assembly, for the opposition, for the government in waiting, to present its own shadow finance bill, because that's what we are asking for, basically. You, as the other side, the alternative side of government, you have your own thoughts on how you would have presented this budget as your first budget. How would your budget have looked like? And then take it to Kenyans and let Kenyans see, actually, we like this one or we don't like this one. We actually prefer what has been presented by the government in power.
Now, Latif, that is a very good proposal if Kenya was operating under the parliamentary system, where we would have an opposition. Remember, we don't actually have an opposition in Kenya. What we have is a majority and a minority. And, we don't have even shadow ministers, because ministers, even the real ministers, don't come to the floor of the House. Because they are not members of parliament. In fact, the presenting ministers on the floor, as we have been currently doing, is totally unconstitutional. It actually goes against the constitution of the Republic of Kenya, which says that CSs are not members of parliament. So really, if we were operating on the parliamentary system, we would have our own shadow finance CS who would be able then to present an alternative budget. But right now, the system we are operating under is a presidential system, which means we are minority. And all of us in the National Assembly have the same responsibility, whether you are in the minority or majority side, whether you are elected on the president's side or not. Our responsibilities are the same. We are supposed to oversight that executive together. In fact, if anything, just before they brought in CSs to the House, members of parliament would ask questions, and it would be chairs of committees that would receive the questions. But as chairs of committees, they would be representing members to forward the questions to the CSs. So all of us in the House, we have the same responsibility. But I think we've got some hang-ups on the parliamentary system that we had before 2010. And I think that's why there is all this issue of people thinking that you're the leader of government business. When you're called leader of majority, you think you're the leader of government business, and so you think that your responsibility is to totally defend the government even when they are wrong. So that means that we lose that authority as a house and that freedom and independence to the executive. So the executive becomes one of the arms of government. Then Parliament becomes just a department within the executive. That's the problem we are facing. But Latif, in our opinion, we have indicated what are the issues we find contentious. And we've raised those issues, and our party leader has expressed himself individually on all the issues that we find contentious, which means that if you get rid of those, then we really have no major problem. We would like the government to operate and do its business, but we don't want them to punish Kenyans. We don't want them to hurt Kenyans during this time when the economy is doing so badly. I mean, people can hardly put food on the table. People can't afford fees for their children. People cannot even uniform. I mean, teachers charge uniform for junior secondary. Parents go up in arms. It's a very, very tight economic period, and any small charge on people's money is difficult. Not to forget that already Kenyans are already paying more for contributions for savings in NSSF. Yeah. They've gone up from 200 to 1,080 per month. And employers, and they keep forgetting that employers are also Kenyans, are already paying 1,080 for every employee. So when you tell them to again start paying for housing, and you tell them, and then NHIF is also going up, I mean, it's difficult. It's a very, very difficult period.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll tell us the strategy that then you have to deal with this on the floor of the House once we take this break. 28 minutes to 10. The Honourable Robert Mboi is the Member of Parliament for Kathiani constituency. He is the Deputy Leader of the Minority in the National Assembly. He's here to tell us Azimio's strategy on the finance bill. How do they expect to deal with it when it comes to the floor of the House? Keep it here for that. We'll be back shortly. KRA reminds you, as we're talking about all this finance bill, raising taxes, KRA is waiting to collect. And they're saying this is the month that we close the financial year, so we'd like you to please file your returns by the end of this month of June. Have you done that? If you haven't, please log on to kra.go.ke. Sign in, log in, and then file your returns.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Bro, the game is about to start. Let's go. Yeah. But just give me a minute, man. Malize. What's up? Who are you chatting with? I'm just filing my returns, then we bounce. Because I hope you remember the deadline is June 30th. The game will start, banner. Where it doesn't take time. And yep, I'm done. That was fast. Show me how you've done yours, because I don't want to pay any penalty. Just log into itax.kra.go.ke and file your returns. And if you don't know how to, just go to KRA's YouTube page and watch a tutorial. It's that easy. Allah, filing returns is easier than cooking. Easy peasy, say.
Kenya Revenue Authority reminds all PIN holders to file their 2022 tax returns on or before 30th of June 2023. For assistance, call 0711 099 999 or email callcenter@kra.go.ke. You can also visit any of the KRA service centers or any Huduma center countrywide. Kenya Revenue Authority. Tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee.
All right, cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 23, highs of 26 in Nakuru, and 22 in a sunny Nyeri. We'll go to highs of 25 in Eldoret. Mostly cloudy at 26 in Mombasa and 27 in Malindi. Kisumu is sunny at 23. It's sunny at 23 in Kakamega. 22 and mostly cloudy into Kampala. And we'll see highs of 30 in a sunny Dar es Salaam. 9 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg. 27 and cloudy in Lagos. And 23 and mostly sunny in Kinshasa. It's 33 and sunny. It will go to highs of 36 into evening in Beijing, and 12 degrees and sunny in Paris. Highs of 27 and highs of 20 in a partly sunny London at 12. It's 18 and partly cloudy creeping into Tuesday morning in New York. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 15.
spice up your life.
We are out of traffic hour. We can see it from the streets, except for what's left on the Thika Superhighway. Coming into the city, it's moving. It's heavy, but it's moving. And so that is good. It's easing off on Kiambu Road as well. Coming in from Limuru Road, we'll see the last of the morning traffic as that eases out into the city. It's also still pretty heavy coming off of James Gishuru over the drifts, but you should be fine as the minutes tick by. All right, coming in from Langata Road and other parts of the city, you're fine. Let's talk through the morning on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Business News with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Digital payment platform Pesapal has introduced a real-time settlement for merchants in Kenya, enabling fast transfer of funds into their accounts through Pesapal's e-wallet Open Float. Merchants who use the Pesapal platform can receive funds faster. Real-time settlement offers several benefits to merchants, including quicker access to funds, improved cash flow management, reduced risk of fraud, and a better customer experience. Migori, Isiolo, Kajiado and Wajir have been ranked as the least budget transparent counties in 2022. Speaking during the launch of the County Budget Transparency Survey 2022, lead researcher Kipkorir Biegon singled out Migori and Isiolo, which have not published a single budget document in the last 2 years of the survey. However, West Pokot, Makueni and Kwale topped the list with the most transparent budgets, with scores of 78, 75 and 74 respectively out of a possible 100 points. About 5 in 10 of millennials pay between 11 and 50 shillings excluding platform fees to access online content every day. Another 13% pay more than 10 shillings daily, according to a new report on consumer trends that was published. Reasons for subscribing to or paying for digital content are affordability, interesting, relevant content, attractiveness, and the availability and reliability of the content. Equity Afya is looking for a housekeeper with a certificate in infection control practices in housekeeping and laundry with at least 2 years of experience in a service-oriented industry. Suitable candidates are required to send their CVs and cover letter by 31st of May 2023. Visit jobs.digga.co.ke for more information on these and other jobs. Digga Jobs, your credible and trusted jobs partner.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
With our guest this morning, the Deputy Leader of the Minority in the National Assembly, representing the people of Kathiani constituency, the Honourable Robert Mbui. City.
You know, even as I listen to the intricacies of how matters are conducted in Parliament, this is a question that I think the three of us have talked about here at length. And so now to pose it to you, Mheshimiwa, would Azimio have run contrary to the Constitution if they had presented their version of what they would consider an acceptable finance bill?
The answer is yes, because the finance bill is one of those bills that are presented by the executive.
Yes.
And since Azimio is not currently the executive, then you cannot be able to present those bills on the floor. I mean, a bill, for example, like the division of revenue, which has, sharing of revenue from between national and county governments. A bill like the, county allocation of revenue, which has revenue across the budget, for example, of the Republic of Kenya. All those are, those are government, executive bills. So we cannot be the ones to come up with those. But we can, for the interest of Kenyans, and I think that because I've heard that mentioned a bit here, maybe give proposals that show what would do as an alternative to what they are doing. But it cannot be presented on the floor of the House.
But you can provide alternatives.
Now, what we shall do, because we shall provide alternatives on the floor, is that we shall propose amendments. You have that liberty on third reading to propose amendments. The clauses, because we have to go through clause by clause. So we will propose amendments. Scrap what we feel should be scrapped. reduce what we feel can be reduced. Maybe, when you're amending, and I notice this when the president is given that right to veto and to because the constitution says that he can send back a bill with reservations. What I've seen the president do is that he sends back amendments.
Yeah.
So we can also amend and introduce some of our own proposals within it, and then when we put it to a vote, because every single clause will be voted for, and hope that Kenyans will listen to our opinion and members will agree with us.
What bill was it that President Uhuru Kenyatta returned? It was on I think the one issue of capping interest rates and another
that was one. Yes.
And we discussed it here, and we said the president is actually acting unconstitutionally because the president is trying to be a lawmaker.
Yes, he was
when the law
legislating.
does not allow him to legislate. So is it not possible to challenge some of these things in court and say, if you're a president, you're supposed to, you have reservations, you send a memorandum with your reservations, and then the parliament shall discuss and consider.
Actually, what we have been we have been subjected to over the years is not actually reservations but amendments.
Proper amendments.
Yeah,
new bills.
because he comes up with delete these, insert these, exact amendments, and that's what is debated. And if you cannot marshal the numbers to overturn it, then it becomes law. And unfortunately, when you read the word reservations, it just means he should send back a memorandum saying, I'm uncomfortable with what you have proposed here. Can you address it?
Yeah.
And but then when you bring it as an amendment, then already it is making law in State House. That's what we are fearing, and that's I think you can challenge these things in court, but we've tried to challenge many things in court, and not all the time do you get justice. That's a reality. Yes.
So are we saying that there's this possibility whereby the vote will go in one direction because of this looming fear that should you not vote one way, as members of parliament who are constitutionally elected to represent the people, but because of what many would even call, executive interference, that it's likely it will not happen. And that's the reality that we're facing right now. When you listen to the communication from the head of state and the deputy, it was actually a threat, and I think the deputy kind of put it a little bit more clearly that if you vote against it, then we are likely to refuse to do development projects in your constituency, and that's a totally unconstitutional and totally illegal even statement coming from someone holding such an office, and it's that kind of arrogance and attitude that intimidates those light-hearted members, because I believe even if I was from the middle of central Kenya or Rift Valley, I would oppose it, and I would expect development for the people, because you see, the development going to the constituency is not for me. It is for the constituents. I am voting. I'm voting on their behalf. So for me to vote against a bill, then these people are also still paying taxes. You cannot say that they will not get development. And I think that's what they are scared of. Maybe getting favors might be more of what they are more scared of.
But favors mean something. Favors means that the people see that you are delivering, and then the people will elect you. It's self-preservation, Mheshimiwa. It makes sense.
For me, that's how I look at it. I look at it like the people that put you in office should be your bosses.
Yeah.
But you know what happens in with some of our leaders? You are elected, and the people that elected you, they become your subjects. They are no longer your boss, because now you're in office, and so you do what you want. And I think that this administration, I'm sorry to say, this administration rode on the backs of those hustlers, and gave them huge promises, and now they are stepping on their backs, breaking their backs, and they seem not to care. So I think somebody has to step in and defend them.
Who's that person to be?
That will be a member of parliament. That will be me when that bill comes up, and that will be members of Azimio, and that will be members of Kenya Kwanza that care for this country. We let me say, there's been this this talk on talk shows, on TV, and in funerals, where people want to make it seem like Kenyans haven't been paying taxes. I've had that debate and it's very tiring. We've been paying taxes for the last 60 years from independence. We've been paying taxes. We are not saying we don't want to pay taxes. We're just saying do not increase the amount of taxation that Kenyans are paying. It's a wrong time. People are suffering. Why would you wait for me when I am? It's like even if we are fighting, we have a boxing match and I knock you down. Yeah. I cannot start kicking you when you're down there. I'll wait for you to stand up. Wait for us to stand up. When we are on our feet, then you can now maybe throw the next punch.
Okay.
But now Kenyans are on the ground and they're being trampled upon by this government. It's unfortunate. And sorry to say this, but you see, there's also been a lot of division in the run-up to the elections. They told us it's hustlers versus the dynasties. Immediately after the elections, we were told it's those that are shareholders versus non-shareholders. Now we've been told it's people with salaries versus the ones without salaries. It's unfortunate, but there are so many hustlers that have a salary. I mean, if you're earning 15,000, 20,000, you're a hustler. Why would you be subjected to more taxation and then you're being told that you're doing very well, money must be taken from you because somebody in the village is not earning so that they can be employed? And the reality is that they cannot explain to us exactly how they will do it. Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, there are crocodile tears, and MPs have been accused of shedding crocodile tears collectively as a National Assembly, because we are at this point where we are discussing how to finance the government for the next financial year. Already, Parliament has okayed for the government to spend 3.6 trillion shillings in the next financial year. Already, that has passed. And we did not hear much noise from members of Parliament when they were saying the government can go ahead and spend 3.6 trillion shillings. When Parliament was looking, and it receives all this information every month from the National Treasury, and you can see that the revenues that have been raised by government are not even going to hit their target for last year. The estimated total revenue for this year is going to be about 1.8 trillion shillings. Then the government comes to Parliament and says, we are going to raise 2.6 trillion shillings next year. Some of those questions that should be coming from Parliament. How is that possible for you to raise that when you have not even met your target that you presented last year, are not asked? So when we hear parliamentarians now talking about the finance bill and, we are representing the people and we speak for our people, why didn't you speak for the people? When the executive came to you and sought your authority to spend 3.6 trillion shillings, you said yes. When Parliament came to you with a revised revenue estimate and you did not raise a question, you did not even force them to cut back on spending, and now you are raising an issue with what they want to raise next year.
Incidentally, Latif, what we did, we debated the budget policy statement, not the budget estimates. Those are yet to come to the floor. And in fact, you'll be surprised, that is the first contact point of war, because they're bringing the estimates. And those questions now will be asked when they present those estimates to the floor of the House. Because what was happening is a budget policy statement is their aspirations.
The overall
their aspirations is what we would like to do and all that. It's a wish list.
Yes.
Now the budget estimates, if you pass them, then you've already committed the country. We haven't done that yet. So that you've put the cart before the horse. It's coming to the floor of the House, and I can tell you that there will be fireworks on that one, because we do have questions. I mean, we say you have to cut your cloth according to your size. We are continuously seeing excessive expenditure by government, and that has happened from the time I've been in Parliament, from 2013. Every budget is always it always has a deficit. It's always bigger than the amount of money that is available. Now they were financing it with borrowing. This time we've agreed that let us not go into borrowing too much. Let us reduce the borrowing, because that's going to hurt us in the future. But then why can't we reduce some of these some of these expenditures? You have to introduce some austerity measures. This regime that is in office today have recruited 50 chief administrative CASs, 50 of them. This is an office that was created in 2018 to reward political cronies that had lost the election.
Yeah.
And the court, pronounced itself on that, and they said, look, we will only allow them to proceed because they had already been in office. And I think that was to last up to the end of the term. I thought that kind of monkey business would not be repeated. In fact, it's unfortunate that this time it's even more than what happened. But Uhuru ran the country from 2013 to 2017. For 5 years, he didn't have any cabinet, those CASs. They were not there. In the second term, he used it to reward cronies. Now it has been perfected by the duo that is in office today, and they have increased the number.
Yeah.
And look at the people that have been put there. And all of them, almost all of them, it's either you are governor and you lost election, or you finished your 2 terms as governor. Why can't you go and do something else? People must learn to retire in this country. Yeah. You've been nominated, I don't know, a member, you've been nominated into Senate, you still feel you must continue serving in some office somewhere.
Or other.
I mean, when are we going to give those mamambogas, borders, and the youth an opportunity to serve this country?
But I also hear you saying, and you can stop me if I'm wrong, that this taxation that is being looked for, you can actually mop up this money within government right now instead of this superfluous spending that we are seeing. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that if you reduce the government wastage, then you probably will not need to tax Kenyans excessively.
What about
if you get rid of the 50 CASs, then already that's a saving. You don't have to charge us some extra money on wigs and and nails for our ladies. So we just need to look at where are the excesses, and then cut down on corruption. I mean, Uhuru told us that we are losing 2 billion on corruption a day.
Yeah.
And the truth is there's I think there's budgeted corruption.
It's all in there.
Put in money there so that because the cost of government services is projects is so many times more than if you do the same project privately. If you're building a classroom for yourself, or you go and donate a classroom in an institution and say, I want to donate and build a class myself, the cost will be like half what the government will build the same class for.
That's true.
So there's a lot of wastage, and I think maybe we need to cut down on that. It's a very, very difficult task and needs very serious people. It doesn't need people that are sweet with the tongue.
It can't be wishy-washy people.
No, it cannot be wishy-washy. It has to be serious.
But when I hear Azimio talking about wastage and government overspending, I'm like, come on. Azimio was in power just a couple of months ago with Jubilee and all these other parties supporting Jubilee's tenure in office. When Jubilee introduced the chief administrative secretaries, all of you kept quiet. Jubilee, plus ODM, plus Wiper, plus other Azimio members were pushing for BBI, which was going to increase members of parliament by 70 new constituencies. So when I hear Azimio talking about government excess, I'm sorry, but I have to question, what moral authority do you have to lecture anybody about a bloated government?
Now, I've had this conversation many times, and what surprises me is that a lot of people seem to think that, and let me speak for myself and my party, Wiper, we were never in government. We have never been in government. I've been in opposition from 2013 up to now. I was deputy leader of the minority in the last regime. I was in the minority throughout. And, there was a handshake, yes. The handshake took place between our leader, then called Coalition, Raila, and Uhuru. And what was the purpose of that handshake? I think it was just to tone down the political temperatures. Raila was never a cabinet secretary. Raila's people were not ministers. By the time the handshake took place, already the cabinet had been formed, and all these offices had already been appointed, including those CASs.
No. CAS happened later.
Oh, it happened later?
After handshake, yes.
All I know is that all those offices were offices that were created for purposes of, for supporting Jubilee in office. And we were we retained our position in the minority. The thing is, there was a cordial working relationship.
Yeah.
But Raila was not part of government.
Some Wiper people were appointed CASs. The current governor of your county,
yes,
Machakos, was a CAS.
Oh, lucky her.
She never moved to Jubilee. She was Wiper all along. So Wiper benefited from those things that were being done by Jubilee.
Well, two wrongs don't make a right. If there are mistakes made in the last regime,
don't make them again.
We must correct them in this one. So I have a moral authority to say, yes, there were mistakes, but let's correct them. You cannot, like they've told us, Kenya Kwanza told us, if you find yourself in a hole, don't continue digging. So I'm saying we were in a hole, stop digging.
Stop digging.
And you who has the shovel today, stop digging. You have the instruments of power. You with the shovel, stop digging us deeper into this hole.
We will try our best, but I have stopped digging. Yes.
What happens if your numbers are not sufficient to block the passage of the finance bill?
It's going to be unfortunate because from where I sit, I think the public has spoken. And it will be unfortunate because, our workers in this country are governed by, they all belong to unions. And I am of the opinion that most of these unions are probably going to ask their members to down their tools. So passage of this finance bill will probably also create a bigger problem. In fact, by us agreeing to change a few things here and there, it might be even better for the government to continue running its affairs. If they pass it by force, because they have, we are only 349 in the House, but there are millions of Kenyans out there. If the millions of Kenyans turn against us because of that, then the country becomes ungovernable. So I'm scared. I hate to imagine what would happen because I can tell you people will not take it lying down. It's difficult for us as it is already. It's not going to be easy. And when we had demonstrations, we had those people who are unemployed. Now there will be demonstrations and everyone, even those with the suits and ties, will be out there in the streets because it's hurting everyone. So I would urge the administration to be careful and tone down. And the way Ruto saw that the digital, content monetization was negative, and he said we can wait for this and do it another time. Maybe he should also see reason and also stop some of these other things, some of those laws, and wait for another time. But I will not go without saying this one. There's one of the things I've introduced, and this has been one of the most shocking things, is the one on 16% VAT on insurance claims. Now, one of the principles of insurance is indemnity. And indemnity means that when you insure your vehicle, if it is worth 100,000, you will never gain and you will never lose. So the value of your car at the point of the accident must be retained as it is. So you cannot take a car and it is worth 100,000, then insure it for 200,000. If it crashes, they'll pay you 100,000. That's the value you had at the beginning. That's indemnity. Now, how do you tell me that my car is worth 100,000, it crashes, then the insurance company pays me 100,000, then you take away 16% of my car. So the accident costs me 16%. Why should the accident cost me? And that's why I'm insured. There's some some of these things. I don't know what was happening where they were when they were making some of these proposals. But that's what I'm saying. Because I saw the president saw one of them and he realized this is a mistake. Maybe these people on the digital space need to get to him the same way they got to him on their matter and show him some of these other,
So while we're here.
This is just completely ridiculous.
I mean, that goes against the principles of insurance.
And it's on all insurance.
Imagine.
Whether it's general insurance, medical insurance, health insurance. So you're going to hospital and...
Imagine, you're already down.
Yeah, so you're already sick, down, you're paid, sick. And then now they take away. So now if you're paid $1 million, you have to figure out where to get 160,000 to top
it up.
What if someone passes away on their life insurance? So it means the family is going to pay 16%.
For death.
At death.
Yep.
So insurance payouts 16% VAT.
It's a death tax.
I mean, it's
you die, we tax you.
You get sick, we tax you.
We tax you.
You have an accident, we tax you.
It's madness. Mheshimiwa, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Come again soon.
Thank you.
It's been a good one. The Honorable Robert Boy is the MP for Kathiani constituency. He is the Deputy Leader of the Minority in the National Assembly. He's been our guest today. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's Biggest Conversation. Join us again tomorrow morning, God willing, from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Okay. Amlioto is going to get in touch with you on social media and pick a winner who gets this hamper from Sarit, your city, as they celebrate 40 years. We've been asking you, what is it that you can do at Sarit Center with 2,040 bob? What would you buy? What did it earn you? Then we'll give you a hamper. We'll announce the winners on social media. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life